Chapter 1: Shadows and Revelations. Naruto Uzumaki's heart raced as he stared at the massive and dilapidated forbidden scroll of seals spread out before him. The moonlight cast an eerie glow over its ancient parchment, the kanji glowing faintly as if alive with power. His fingers trembled as they traced the words of the first technique, the Shadow Clone Jutsu. This was his chance to prove everyone wrong. "Okay, Naruto, you've got this," he muttered to himself. "If I can master this, Mizuki-sensei will have to let me graduate." He clasped his hands together, tentatively forming the unfamiliar hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A puff of smoke erupted beside him. Naruto coughed and waved it away, only to groan in frustration. There it was, a limp, malformed copy of himself sprawled out on the forest floor, its face frozen in a ridiculous grimace. Come on," Naruto yelled, kicking at the dirt. "Why does it always come out like this? Stupid clone jutsu. Why did it have to be a clone jutsu?" Clone jutsu had always been his fatal flaw, at least the one that he knew of. You couldn't be hurt by a jin jutsu you didn't understand. That was what he had always said, or start saying anyway. No matter how hard he practiced, his clones always turned out to be useless, malformed blobs. But tonight was different. Tonight, he had something to prove. Gritting his teeth, he focused again, pouring every ounce of chakra he could muster into the technique. Shadow Clone Jutsu. This time, the puff of smoke dissipated to reveal a perfect copy of himself. Naruto froze, blinking in disbelief as his doppelganger grinned at him. "What are you staring at? Do I have something on my face?" the clone quipped, crossing its arms. You can talk." Naruto's jaw dropped. The clone rolled its eyes. Yeah? I'm a clone of you, genius. Of course I can talk. So what's the plan, boss?" "No way. I actually did it. I made a real clone, and a solid one." Naruto broke into a wide grin, his earlier frustration melting away. The clone matched his grin. "About time. So, are we sticking with mastering this technique, or are we checking out what else is on this scroll?" Naruto scratched the back of his head. I was going to focus on mastering the multi-shadow clone jutsu, but I guess it wouldn't hurt to take a peek at the next one, too. The clone knelt by the scroll, flipping to the next section. Would release? That sounds kind of cool. Would release, Naruto repeated, leaning over the clone's shoulder. What kind of ninja uses wood? Before they could delve further, a sudden rustling in the bushes snapped their attention away from the scroll. Naruto tensed, his eyes narrowing as Iruka-sensei burst into the clearing, panting and frantic. "Naruto, what are you doing with that scroll?" Iruka demanded, his gaze darting between the boy and the scroll. "Do you have any idea how dangerous that is?" "But Mizuki-sensei said," Naruto began, only to be cut off as Mizuki himself stepped out of the shadows, his smirk gleaming under the moonlight. "Ah, Naruto," Mizuki drawled, his voice oozing with false sweetness. "You did well bringing the scroll here. Now hand it over." Iruka's eyes widened in alarm. "Naruto, don't listen to him. Mizuki's been lying to you. This isn't a test, it's a trap." "What's he talking about?" Naruto's heart sank as he turned to Mizuki. Confusion etched across his face. "Of course it was a trap, Naruto. You're too stupid to realize you could never become a ninja. You're a monster." Mizuki's smirk twisted into a sneer. "Oh, you don't know, do you? You poor, ignorant little brat." His voice dripped with venom as he continued. "Didn't you ever wonder why the villagers hate you? Why they look at you like you're some kind of monster?" Naruto's stomach churned, dread pooling in his chest. "It's because you're a monster," Mizuki spat. "You're the nine-tailed fox, the demon that nearly destroyed this village. The fourth Hokage didn't just defeat it, he sealed it inside you." The words hit Naruto like a punch to the gut. His mind reeled, fragments of memories, harsh whispers, scornful glances, parents pulling their children away from him, flooding his thoughts. It all made sense now. The truth cut deeper than any blade. "No, that's not." Naruto staggered backward, his hands clutching his head. "That's not possible." "It is possible. It is the truth." Mizuki sneered, hurling a massive shuriken straight at Naruto. You're nothing but a curse. No. Irika leaped in front of Naruto, the shuriken embedding itself in his shoulder. Blood seeped through his vest as he collapsed to the ground, wincing in pain. Why? Why did you do that? Naruto stammered, his voice trembling. Irika looked up at him, his eyes filled with a mix of regret and determination. Because you're more than the Nine Tails, Naruto. You're my student. You're a part of this village. A shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. You're one of us. Naruto's chest tightened as Irika's words sank in. For the first time, someone saw him, not as a monster, but as a person. His fists clenched, rage and resolve boiling within him. How dare you hurt Irika-sensei? Naruto shouted, forming the hand signs with newfound determination. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. A massive cloud of smoke erupted around him, and when it cleared, hundreds of identical Narutos surrounded Mizuki, each one brimming with fury. You mess with the wrong ninja, Mizuki, they yelled in unison, charging forward. Mizuki's smirk faltered as the clones descended on him, fists flying. The real Naruto stood back, watching as his clones pummeled the traitor into submission. He glanced at Irika, who gave him a weak but proud smile. For the first time in his life, Naruto felt a spark of hope. Maybe he wasn't just a monster. Maybe he really could become something more. In the distance, past the tree line, nobody noticed the first shadow clone that Naruto had created engrossed in concentration, hands pressed into a snake seal. The warm, savory aroma of miso ramen filled the air as Naruto Uzumaki slurped noisily, his cheeks puffed out with noodles and broth. Across from him, Irika Yumino chuckled, nursing his own bowl at their favorite spot, Ichiraku ramen. To think, Naruto, Irika said between bites, you not only mastered a forbidden technique, but you also took down Mizuki. You come a long way. Naruto grinned, his mouth still full of ramen. Told ya, Irika-sensei, I'm gonna be the greatest ninja ever, believe it. Irika shook his head, a fond smile on his face. It wasn't long ago that Naruto's antics were more about pranks than proving himself. But tonight, there was something different about the boy. A spark of determination, a glimpse of the ninja he was destined to become. Just remember, Irika said, setting his chopsticks down, I only gave you that headband because you proved to me that you're capable. It's not just about strength, Naruto. It's about protecting those around you. Naruto's expression softened, and he nodded. I get it, Irika-sensei. I really do. You protected me back there even when... He hesitated, the memory of Mizuki's words clawing at his thoughts. Even when I didn't think I deserved it. You deserve it, Irika said firmly. His voice lowered into a whisper. You're not just the Nine Tails, Naruto. You're a part of this village, and you've got people who care about you. Don't ever forget that. Thanks, Irika-sensei. You're the best. Naruto's grin returned, a little wider this time. The two shared a laugh, their bowls steadily emptying. For Naruto, this was one of the best nights of his life. But far away, in the forest clearing where it had all begun, something curious was unfolding. The original shadow clone Naruto had created stood with his arms crossed, staring intently at the crude drawing of the wood release technique he'd sketched on a scrap of bark. The moonlight made the ink shimmer faintly, as if mocking him. I swear I'm doing this right, the clone muttered. He glanced at the instructions again, particularly the part that mentioned combining water and earth nature chakra. How am I supposed to combine two chakra natures? I didn't even know chakra had natures. He scratched his head, thinking back to the times he'd seen Sasuke use fireballs or heard stories about the fourth Hokage's legendary wind techniques. Maybe chakra natures were something advanced, something the real Naruto hadn't learned yet. But then again, when had that ever stopped him before? It's only one hand sign, the clone grumbled, forming the snake seal as he had before. How hard can it be? He concentrated, pouring his chakra into the seal. The ground beneath him rumbled faintly, but nothing else happened. He sighed and dropped his hands, glancing at the scroll again. Maybe if I had some help. He grinned, forming the cross seal. Shadow, clone jutsu. An immediate puff of smoke erupted beside him, revealing a second clone. The new clone looked around, taking in his surroundings before nodding with a grin. All right, things are getting a bit weird, but I know what I'm here for. You do? How? The original clone narrowed his eyes. The second clone shrugged, his grin turning a little mischievous. I don't know, but I do. We should get to work if we're going to figure out this would release thing. The original clone crossed his arms. Well, good. I could use the help. The second clone tilted his head thoughtfully. Although if one clone is good, maybe two clones are better. Oh, come on. If we keep making more clones, we'll spend all night talking in circles. The original clone groaned, throwing his hands in the air. Or we'll figure out faster, the second clone countered with a smirk. The first clone rubbed his temples. Fine. But no more clones after this, got it? Got it. The second clone formed the cross seal. Shadow clone Jutsu. A third clone appeared, blinking in confusion. Why am I here? The second clone pointed at the drawing. We're trying to figure out would release. Oh, right. I feel like I already knew that. The third clone knelt beside the original drawing, scratching his chin as he studied it. Looks tricky. No kidding, the first clone muttered. The three clones huddled together, each offering theories and trying variations on the hand seals. The clearing was soon filled with faint rumblings and small puffs of smoke as they worked tirelessly, their determination mirroring that of their creator. Back at Ichaku, Naruto finished his fourth bowl of ramen with a satisfied sigh. Irika paid the bill, much to Naruto's delight, and the two headed home under the starry sky. You know, Irika said as they walked, if you keep this up, you really might become Hokage one day. Naruto beamed, the dream burning brightly in his heart. You bet I will, Irika-sensei. Just you wait. Far away, in the quiet of the forest, the original Shadow clone was still hard at work, his focus unwavering. I don't care if it's impossible, he muttered, forming the snake seal yet again. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Nothing's impossible for me. The ground rumbled a little more forcefully this time, and the clone's grin widened. Maybe, just maybe, he was onto something. Naruto yawned and stretched as he shuffled toward the door of his small apartment. The frantic pounding outside was relentless, and whoever was responsible was in serious danger of waking his neighbors, or worse, ticking them off. Who the heck is it this early in the morning? He grumbled, swinging the door open. To his shock, he was greeted by his own insufferably grinning face. We did it, boss, the Shadow clone on the other side of the door shouted triumphantly, practically bouncing on his heels. Did what? Naruto stared at the clone, blinking in confusion. This. We did it. The clone's grin widened as he reached into his pocket, producing a tiny, nondescript twig with roots. Naruto tilted his head, inspecting the plant disinterestedly. You pulled out a weed. No, you dope. The clone laughed, holding the plant up like a trophy. This isn't just any plant. I made this. It's what release. Naruto blinked again, the words barely registering before the clone vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving the twig in his hand. He frowned, staring at the small plant, a strange sense of familiarity washing over him. Would release, huh? He muttered, twirling the plant between his fingers. He couldn't deny there was something different about it, something that felt like it came from him. Guess I should ask old Grandpa Hokage about this. Naruto pocketed the plant and made his way toward the Hokage's office, muttering to himself about chakra nature and how complicated being a ninja was turning out to be. But as he approached the grand building, a commotion at the entrance caught his attention. Take this, old man, came a high-pitched battle cry. Naruto blinked just in time to see a small boy, his face painted like a miniature warrior, charging at the third Hokage with a crude kunai. The elderly leader, Hiruzen Sarutobi, sighed and easily sidestepped the attack. Before the boy could recover fully, Naruto instinctively stuck out a foot, tripping him and sending him sprawling onto the ground. Hey, what gives? The boy shouted, scrambling to his feet and glaring at Naruto. Naruto crossed his arms, grinning. You're not going to take down the old man with moves like that. Who are you talking to, you orange weirdo? The boy snapped. Watch it, Brad. Naruto shot back. That's no way to talk to your future Hokage. The boy froze, his eyes widening. Hokage? You want to be Hokage too? Naruto smirked. That's right, and no one's going to beat me to it. Then that makes us rivals. My name is Konohamaru, and I'm going to beat you to the title of Hokage. Believe it. The boy's expression hardened with determination. Before Naruto could respond, Hiruzen cleared his throat, his amusement barely hidden behind a stern expression. Naruto, Konohamaru, enough. Come inside before you cause any more of a scene. Inside the Hokage's office, Naruto quickly explained his reason for visiting, though he couldn't resist throwing in a dramatic retelling of Konohamaru's supposed ambush. Konohamaru, meanwhile, sulked at the edge of the room, muttering about how Naruto had stolen his spotlight. You're asking about chakra nature? Hiruzen said, stroking his beard thoughtfully as Naruto pulled the tiny twig from his pocket. His aged eyes took in Naruto briefly before he sighed. The third Hokage examined the plant with mild interest, his eyes narrowing slightly. This is intriguing. So what's the deal? Naruto asked. Is this really wood release? Hiruzen nodded slowly. It appears so. Wood release is an advanced Kekkai Genkai, a bloodline limit. It's a combination of water and earth nature chakra, and only the first Hokage was ever known to use it naturally. Naruto frowned. But I don't even know what my chakra nature is. How could I do this? That's what makes it so strange, Hiruzen said. Your shadow clone must have discovered something instinctively. Perhaps there's more to your potential than we realize. Keep at it, my boy. I await your progress with this secret technique. Naruto puffed up his chest, grinning. Well, of course there is. I'm going to be Hokage after all. Before the Hokage could respond, Konohamaru suddenly jumped in front of Naruto. Hey, don't forget, I'm going to be Hokage first. Naruto rolled his eyes. Yeah, good luck with that, shorty. You'll see. In fact, you're going to train me. Konohamaru glared at him, his cheeks puffing out. Train you? Naruto said, raising an eyebrow. Why would I do that? Because you're the only one who doesn't treat me like the Hokage's grandson, Konohamaru said, his voice rising. Everyone else just sees me as some spoiled, fragile little kid. But you tripped me without even caring who I was. Naruto blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in Konohamaru's tone. Yeah. So it's settled, Konohamaru said, his grin returning. From now on, you're my boss. Naruto sighed, scratching the back of his head. Fine, but don't expect me to go easy on you. Bring it on, Konohamaru declared, pumping his fist in the air. As the two of them left the Hokage's office, Naruto couldn't help but smile. Konohamaru was a bit of a pain, but maybe having a rival wasn't so bad after all. Besides, he still had a lot to figure out about this would release thing. And if Konohamaru wanted to tag along, so be it. Little did he know, his newfound technique was only the beginning of a much larger mystery. Chapter 2. Rivals, Bells, and Hidden Jutsu. The moon hung high over Konoha, bathing the training grounds in silver light. Naruto Uzumaki, still buzzing with excitement from his promotion to Genin, couldn't bear the thought of sleep. Tomorrow was a big day, the day he'd be assigned a sensei, a powerful jonin who would instruct him in ancient shinobi arts and help shape his destiny. But tonight, he had other plans. Arriving at the training ground, Naruto's grin thinned into a look of determination. This was no time to rest on his laurels. If he wanted to be Hokage, he needed to get stronger, and he needed to start now. Okay, he said, forming the familiar cross seal. Shadow, clone jutsu. With a puff of smoke, 3 identical Narutos appeared, each wearing the same determined expression. You know what to do, the original instructed. Go figure out this would release thing again. The clones nodded solemnly before darting off to separate corners of the clearing, eager to be the first to replicate their earlier success. Despite their relentless efforts, they'd only managed it once. Naruto was beginning to wonder if the whole ordeal was a fever dream. He sighed, watching them disappear into the shadows. Does the old man Hokage even believe me? He muttered. Or was he just humoring me? As Naruto stood there, pondering his next steps, a faint sound caught his attention. Heavy breathing and the rhythmic thud of fists slamming into wood. Curious, he followed the noise until he spotted a strange sight. a boy, slightly older than himself, punching holes into a tree stump with his bare fists. The boy was dressed in a bright green jumpsuit, his bushy eyebrows and bowl-cut hair glistening with sweat as he delivered another devastating punch. Naruto's eyes bulged. "Whoa," he whispered. Before Naruto could blink, the boy vanished from the stump and reappeared behind him, his movements almost too fast to register. "Hello, fellow shinobi of this great village," the boy greeted with unnatural cheer, bowing slightly. "I have never met you before, but you appear to be my age. As my class was the previous most recent to graduate, I surmise you must belong to the next class. The one that graduated last week, yes?" Naruto blinked, still trying to process the boy's sudden appearance. "Whoa, you're smart, bushy brows." The boy faltered for a moment, taken aback. His neck tinged with a creeping red. "Oh, well, yes. But as an older shinobi, I must inform you that it is considered rude to spy on your fellow villagers while they train in their secret techniques." Naruto's face fell. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spy. I didn't even know you were here." He hesitated, scratching the back of his head. "I just graduated yesterday, actually, under special circumstances." The boy studied him for a moment, but didn't press further. Instead, Naruto quickly changed the subject. "Secret technique? That sounds cool. I've got some of my own. Want to compare?" The boy's eyes sparkled with excitement. "A youthful challenge? Yash, so soon after graduating? You are an inspiration." He settled into a solid yet flexible stance, one arm outstretched toward Naruto. "I must know your name, friend." Naruto's grin widened. "Friend?" He didn't hear that word often. "Naruto Uzumaki." My name is Rock Lee," the boy declared, his voice brimming with pride. "My dream is to become the world's foremost expert on taijutsu." He gestured dramatically. "Come, Naruto-kun. Let us dance." Naruto didn't need to be asked twice. Forming the cross seal, he summoned a dozen shadow clones, all of which charged at Lee with unrelenting enthusiasm. Lee's expression shifted slightly, his surprise evident. "They leave footprints, solid clones?" Lee muttered, dodging the first attack. "This is no ordinary clone jutsu." Before he could finish the thought, one of the clones landed a solid punch to his cheek. Lee staggered ever so slightly, a red mark forming on his face. His shock melted into enthusiasm. "Your special technique is truly excellent, Naruto-kun. I will not hold back any longer." And then Lee vanished. His speed was so blinding that Naruto couldn't even comprehend where he'd gone until it was too late. The fight was over before it had even truly begun. One by one, Naruto's clones disappeared in puffs of smoke, and the real Naruto found himself on his back, staring up at the stars. He felt a wave of disappointment damper his earlier optimism. He felt like he was really starting to get there. "You are incredible, Naruto-kun," Lee exclaimed, helping him to his feet. "Why, when I graduated, I couldn't even form an illusory clone, let alone solid ones like yours." Hee. "Yeah, I learned it from a forbidden scroll of sealing just last night." Actually, Naruto rubbed the back of his head, grinning sheepishly. "And, hey, thanks for the compliment, but you kind of destroyed me." Lee waved off the comment. "You've already mastered a forbidden technique. To do so in a single night. You are a genius of hard work. With training and dedication, you'll surely prove yourself my worthy rival." Naruto blinked. A genius of hard work? No one had ever called him a genius before. Lee leaned closer, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "You truly have great potential, Naruto-kun. Tell me, would you like some pointers in taijutsu?" Naruto hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Sure, that'd be great. And I could teach you shadow clone jutsu too. I can't make normal clones either, you know." "Yash, I thank you for your generous offer, my friend. However, I cannot use chakra, and so your technique would be useless for me," Lee exclaimed, practically glowing with energy despite his words. He motioned for Naruto to settle into a stance, quickly adjusting the boy's limbs with surprising precision. As Lee explained the fundamentals of taijutsu, Naruto listened intently, absorbing every word. By the time they finished, the moon was beginning to dip below the horizon. The two boys stood side by side, panting but smiling. "Let us meet again tomorrow night," Lee declared, giving Naruto a thumbs up. "With your shadow clone jutsu and my guidance, we will make you unstoppable." Naruto couldn't help but grin. For the first time, he felt like he wasn't training alone. He had a rival, a friend, and that made all the difference. The morning sun cast long shadows over the training ground as Naruto Uzumaki stood with his teammates, Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno, each eyeing their sensei, Kakashi Hitaki, with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. He couldn't believe his luck. He was teamed up with his longtime crush. Unfortunately, it meant he would have to tolerate the presence of his nemesis. Naruto shook himself free of his thoughts. In front of them, two small bells dangled provocatively from Kakashi's belt. "All right," Kakashi drawled, his single visible eye crinkling in amusement. "The goal is simple. Get one of these bells from me. If you fail, you go back to the academy." Naruto grinned, his determination blazing. "Just you wait, sensei. I'm gonna knock those bells right off you." "Oomph. This'll be easy." Sasuke smirked, his arms crossed. Sakura, less confident but eager to prove herself, nodded firmly. "We'll show you, Kakashi-sensei." "All right then, begin." Kakashi reached into his pocket, pulling out a small orange book in lieu of a weapon or explosive tag. If that was odd to Naruto, he didn't waste a second to consider it. "Shadow Clone Jutsu," he shouted, forming the cross seal. A dozen clones appeared in a puff of smoke, causing Sakura and Sasuke to gape in astonishment. Even Kakashi raised an eyebrow. "Solid clones," Kakashi murmured, impressed. "That's no ordinary clone jutsu." "Let's get him," Naruto yelled, and his clones charged in unison, surrounding Kakashi with a chaotic flurry of attacks. Kakashi dodged effortlessly, weaving between the clones with uncanny precision. One by one, the clones were dispatched with swift but non-lethal strikes, vanishing in puffs of smoke. "Is that all you've got?" Kakashi taunted, his voice calm despite the onslaught. Naruto growled, charging forward himself. He threw a punch, his form noticeably more refined than Sakura remembered. Kakashi sidestepped smoothly, catching Naruto's wrist and flipping him over his shoulder. Naruto hit the ground with a grunt, clutching his ribs. "You've got potential, Naruto," Kakashi said casually, "but you're much too reckless." Sasuke, watching from the shadows, scowled. "I'm not going to let that idiot show me up." He darted forward, launching a series of precise strikes at Kakashi. The Jonin blocked and deflected each one with infuriating ease, his nose still buried in his book. "Impressive, Sasuke," Kakashi remarked, dodging a high kick. "But predictable." Sakura, feeling the pressure, leaped into action. "My turn," she cried, hurling a handful of kunai. Kakashi sidestepped them with minimal effort, his attention seemingly never leaving his book. One by one, each of them tried to fight Kakashi head-on. One by one, they failed. Hours later, Naruto found himself tied to a post, his stomach growling loudly as Sasuke and Sakura sat nearby with bentos Kakashi had provided. The Jonin stood a few feet away, watching them with his ever-present air of nonchalance. "You failed," Kakashi said bluntly, closing his book. "You didn't work as a team. Worse, Naruto, you left Sakura to be ambushed while you try to grab a bell for yourself. A ninja who breaks the rules is scum, but a ninja who abandons their comrades is worse than scum." Naruto squirmed against his bonds, his frustration mounting. "But I was trying my best. I don't need help. I can do this on my own." Sakura frowned, looking down at her bento. "Kakashi-sensei," she said hesitantly, "Naruto hasn't eaten anything all day." Kakashi's eye narrowed. "Don't even think about it. Feeding him is against the rules. If you do, I'll make sure you can never retake this exam." He disappeared in the swirl of concentric leaves that was the preferred body flicker of Konohinin. Naruto's stomach growled again, louder this time. Sakura glanced at Sasuke, who shrugged indifferently, then made up her mind. Quietly, she slid her bento over to Naruto, holding a piece of rice to his mouth. "Here," she said softly, "just don't get us caught, you moron." Naruto blinked in surprise, then smiled gratefully. As he took a bite, Kakashi reappeared in a blur, looming over them. Well, he said, his tone light but dangerous. You broke the rules. Naruto braced himself for a lecture, but instead, Kakashi's eye crinkled with approval. Congratulations, he said. You pass. Sakura and Sasuke gaped in disbelief. Wait, what? Kakashi crossed his arms, his voice softening. The purpose of this test wasn't to get the bells. It was to see if you could work as a team. You may not have figured it out right away, but in the end, you showed that you were willing to help each other, even when it meant breaking the rules. That's what being a ninja is all about. Naruto's grin returned in full force. Ah, I knew it. Then we're officially Team 7. Kakashi nodded. Meet here tomorrow for your first mission. Dismissed. As the team dispersed, Naruto headed straight for the training ground where he had promised to meet Rock Lee. Sasuke watched him leave, his expression unreadable. He's going to train, Sasuke muttered to himself. Right after all of this? That dope doesn't know when to quit. But deep down, Sasuke couldn't help but feel a flicker of irritation, and perhaps respect. Naruto, for all his flaws, was relentless, and that made him someone Sasuke couldn't ignore. At the training ground, Lee was already waiting, his arms crossed, and his face lit up with a grin. Naruto-kun, you are late, but your youthfulness is forgiven. Let us begin immediately. Naruto grinned back, his exhaustion forgotten. You bet bushy brows. Let's do this. As they squared off, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had a lot to learn, but for the first time he felt like he was truly on the path to becoming Hokage. And nothing, not Sasuke, not Kakashi, not even Lee, was going to stop him. Chapter 3, The D-Rank Grind. Naruto groaned loudly as he trudged through the streets of Konoha, Sakura and Sasuke flanking him with equally bored expressions. Kakashi strolled lazily behind them, his usual book in hand, seemingly indifferent to their collective misery. This sucks, Naruto shouted, throwing his hands in the air. I became a ninja to go on awesome missions, not to chase some stupid cat. You mean like this one? The same one we just caught last week. Sakura snapped, clutching the squirming feline in her arms. The cat, a rotund creature with a ribbon tied around its neck, yowled in protest, its claws narrowly missing Sakura's face. I swear this thing hates me. It hates everyone. It's a demon comprised entirely of hate and loathing, Sasuke said flatly, his hands shoved in his pockets. And it's not a real mission if you're whining the whole time, Naruto. Naruto spun to face him, pointing an accusatory finger. Like you're having fun, Mr. Cool Guy. Enough, Kakashi said without looking up from his book. You're ninja now. D-rank missions are part of the job. Everyone has to start somewhere. Naruto grumbled under his breath, but didn't argue further. Instead, he glanced at his teammates, then at Kakashi, a sly grin spreading across his face. After returning the cat, Tora-chan, the daimyo's wife had called it, smothering the struggling creature in her arms, Team 7 found themselves saddled with another menial task, pulling weeds from an old woman's garden. This is so lame, Naruto muttered as he yanked at a particularly stubborn root. I could be training right now. You should be focusing on your work, Sakura said, glaring at him. This is part of being a ninja, Naruto. Naruto ignored her, forming the cross seal with a subtle motion. Shadow clone jutsu, he whispered. A faint puff of smoke appeared behind a row of hedges, and 2 clones slipped away unnoticed. Naruto grinned, satisfied. As the rest of the team continued their task, the clones darted toward the forest, heading straight for Naruto's secret training ground. There, they got to work, each focusing on the same task, recreating the ever-elusive phenomena that had produced that tiny plant. Back in the garden, Kakashi's eye flicked up from his book, briefly scanning the area. He frowned slightly, his gaze settling on Naruto, who was yanking weeds with exaggerated effort. Shadow clones, Kakashi thought. He's using them for something else. Has he discovered what the technique does? The Shadow Clone Jutsu, while impressive outright in its offensive capabilities, had a significant and unique feature. Any experience or knowledge gained by the clones would transfer back to the original when they dispelled. It wasn't a technique to be used lightly, especially not by a genin. Yet here was Naruto, apparently using it to train? Kakashi's frown deepened as he returned to his book. Just how much does this kid really understand about what he's doing? Hours later, after completing a handful of similarly mundane missions, Team 7 returned to the Hokage's office to report their progress. Well done, Hiruzen Sarutobi said, his voice kind but weary. Keep up the good work, Team 7. Naruto barely heard him, his mind already drifting to his training. As soon as Kakashi dismissed them for the day, Naruto bolted, ignoring Sakura's protests and Sasuke's frown. Where's he going in such a hurry? Sakura asked. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Training. Training, Sakura repeated, incredulous. After all that work? Sasuke didn't respond. Instead, he turned and began walking away, his expression unreadable. At the training ground, Naruto's clones dispelled one by one, their experiences flooding back to him. He staggered slightly, clutching his head as the memories and sensations hit him all at once. Okay, he muttered, shaking off the disorientation. So combining water and earth chakra isn't as simple as I thought, but I'm getting closer. He formed the snake seal again, concentrating on the faint feeling of interconnectedness he'd felt during the clone's attempts. The ground beneath him rumbled slightly, a patch of dirt shifting unnaturally before stopping. Dang it, Naruto groaned, flopping onto the ground. Why is this so hard? Before he could try again, a voice called out from the shadows. Still working on your special technique, Naruto-kun? Naruto jumped, spinning around to see Rock Lee standing nearby, his ever-present grin plastered across his face. Lee, Naruto exclaimed, quickly scrambling to his feet. What are you doing here? Lee crossed his arms, his grin widening. I was going to train, but it seems you've beaten me to it. Tell me, Naruto-kun, how has your progress been? Naruto hesitated, glancing at the patch of disturbed dirt. It's coming along, he said vaguely, but it's going to take a while. Lee nodded sagely. All great techniques do. Come, let's train together. Youthful effort is the key to success. All right, bushy brows. Let's do this. Naruto couldn't help but grin. As the two began their nightly sparring session, Kakashi watched from a distance, hidden among the trees. His gaze lingered on Naruto, a mix of curiosity and concern flickering in his eye. There's something about him, Kakashi thought. Something different. If he keeps this up, he might surprise us all. Team 7 stood in the Hokage's office, the tension palpable. Naruto crossed his arms, glaring at the mission scroll Hiruzen Sarutobi had handed them. His voice echoed through the room as he shouted, Another D-rank mission? Old man, come on. We're ninja, not babysitters. Naruto, how can you talk to the Hokage like that? Show some respect. Sakura's eyes widened in horror as she spun on Naruto. Hiruzen chuckled warmly, stroking his beard. It's all right, Sakura. Naruto is nothing if not direct. Naruto's indignant expression didn't waver. We're ready for more. Something real, like an actual ninja mission. To everyone's surprise, Sasuke stepped forward, his arms crossed. Naruto's right. We're wasting our time with these mundane tasks. We're ready for something more challenging. Sakura gaped at him. Sasuke-kun. The Hokage turned to Kakashi, who stood leaning against the wall, his book still in hand. What do you think, Kakashi? Kakashi shrugged lazily. They're ambitious, I'll give them that. Maybe it's time to test how ready they really are. Hiruzen nodded thoughtfully. Very well. I have a C-rank mission that should suit your ambitions. He reached for a different scroll and handed it to Kakashi. You'll be escorting a bridge builder to the land of waves. You leave tomorrow morning. Naruto cheered, pumping his fist in the air. Finally, a real mission. As the team filed out of the office, Naruto was already brimming with excitement, itching to tell Lee about his first real mission. But before he could dart off to the training ground, Sakura grabbed his sleeve, stopping him in his tracks. Hold it, Naruto, she said, her brow furrowed. You've been running off every night after missions. What's going on? Naruto scratched the back of his head, sheepishly avoiding her gaze. Well, I've been training with someone. Training? Sakura asked, her curiosity piqued. With who? Rock Lee, Naruto admitted, his voice trailing off. You know that bushy-brow guy? He's been teaching me some taijutsu stuff. Sakura frowned. Why didn't you tell us? Naruto grinned nervously. I didn't think you'd care, but you could come if you want. Sakura hesitated, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. Fine, but only to make sure you're not slacking off. At the training ground, Naruto introduced Sakura to Rock Lee, who greeted her with his usual exuberance. Ah, Sakura-chan, Lee exclaimed, his eyes sparkling as he took her hand in both of his. You are as radiant as a cherry blossom in spring. It is an honor to train with you. Sakura blinked, her cheeks flushing a deeper pink as she awkwardly withdrew her hand. Thanks. Naruto rolled his eyes. All right, bushy brows, let's get started. As the three began their training session, Lee's energy was infectious. He demonstrated several taijutsu forms with a level of precision and intensity that left Sakura in awe. Naruto, ever the ball of energy, threw himself into each exercise with reckless abandon, while Sakura tried her best to keep up. Unbeknownst to them, two figures watched from the shadows. Kakashi leaned against a tree, his book still in hand, but forgotten as he observed his students with a rare look of interest. Beside him, Might Guy crouched, his eyes gleaming with pride. Ah, Kakashi, my eternal rival, Guy whispered, his voice brimming with emotion. Your student, Naruto, has a youthful spirit unmatched in Konoha, and Sakura-chan shows great potential under my prized pupil's guidance. Kakashi glanced at him, his expression unreadable. Naruto's resourceful, I'll give him that. Using shadow clones to train is an interesting approach. Guy nodded, his grin widening. He embodies the very essence of hard work. Just like Lee. As they continued to watch, Naruto summoned several clones to spar with Lee. The two boys exchanged blows with increasing intensity, while Sakura practiced her strikes under Lee's encouragement. For all her initial hesitation, she found herself enjoying the training, her confidence slowly building. By the time they wrapped up for the night, all three were drenched in sweat, but grinning from ear to ear. Yash, Lee declared, giving them a thumbs up. You are both growing stronger by the minute. With continued dedication, you will become formidable warriors of Konoha. Naruto grinned, his exhaustion forgotten. Thanks, Lee. This was awesome. Sakura, still catching her breath, managed a small smile. Yeah, it was. Thanks for helping us. Lee bowed deeply. It is my pleasure, Sakura-chan. As the three parted ways, Naruto couldn't help but feel a newfound sense of camaraderie with his teammates. Tomorrow, they would embark on their first real mission. And for the first time, he felt like they were truly starting to come together as a team. Chapter 4. The Demon Brothers of the Mist. Team 7 gathered at the gates of Konoha, where their client waited. Tazuna, the bridge builder from the Land of Waves, stood with his arms crossed, a straw hat tilted slightly over his eyes. The older man scanned the group, his face etched with a mix of doubt and irritation. These are the shinobi I was promised. Tazuna scoffed, eyeing Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura with open disdain. They look like snot-nosed brats to me. Naruto bristled, clenching his fists. Hey, old man, watch your mouth. We're ninja, and we can handle whatever you throw at us. I'd like to see you try to prove it, Tazuna said flatly, unimpressed. Sakura stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. It's customary for Genin teams to take on simple escort missions like this, especially since this is only a C-rank mission. We're more than capable of getting you to the Land of Waves. Tazuna's eyes averted slightly, his demeanor softening. C-rank, huh? Yeah, of course. Kakashi, who had been leaning against the gate with his usual nonchalance, spoke up. I'm a Jonin, and I'll be with you every step of the way. If my students can't handle something, I'll step in. You'll be safe. Tazuna sighed, scratching his head. All right, let's get this over with. The group set off, the road ahead stretching into the dense forests outside Konoha. The morning air was crisp, but the atmosphere was tense. Sparse conversation passed between them as they walked, Naruto occasionally trying to lighten the mood with his usual antics, only to be shushed by Sakura or ignored by Sasuke. Kakashi, as always, seemed entirely unbothered, his nose buried in his ever-present book. It wasn't until they had been traveling for a few hours that Kakashi's visible eye sharpened, his attention snapping to a small puddle on the dirt road ahead. He slowed his pace, his hand subtly drifting toward his kunai pouch. Naruto noticed the change in Kakashi's demeanor and frowned. "What's up, Kakashi-sensei?" "Nothing," Kakashi said smoothly, his voice betraying no hint of concern. "Keep walking." Naruto shrugged, but his unease lingered. Moments later, two shinobi clad in dark armor and breathing apparatuses erupted from the puddle, their chains flashing as they entwined Kakashi in their trap. "Got him!" one of them growled as they pulled the chains taut. With a violent yank, Kakashi's body was shredded, exploding into a cloud of smoke and splinters. "Kakashi-sensei!" Sakura screamed, her face pale. Naruto's heart pounded, his feet rooted to the ground as fear gripped him. He couldn't believe what he'd just seen. Kakashi-sensei gone? Before anyone could react further, the two shinobi turned their attention to the rest of the group. "You're next," one of them snarled, lunging toward Tazuna. Sasuke was the first to move, his instincts kicking in. He darted forward, hurling a kunai to intercept the attack. The blade narrowly missed its mark, grazing one of the shinobi and forcing them to step back. "Snap out of it, Naruto!" Sasuke barked, his voice cutting through Naruto's haze. Sakura grabbed Naruto's arm, shaking him. "Naruto, we need you. Kakashi-sensei wouldn't just let himself get taken down like that. Come on." Naruto blinked, her words sinking in. She's right. Kakashi-sensei wouldn't go down that easily. His fear melted into anger, and he formed the cross seal. "Shadow Clone Jutsu," he shouted, summoning 3 solid clones that immediately charged the attackers. Sasuke smirked, using the distraction to flank one of the shinobi. With quick, precise strikes, he forced the attacker into a defensive stance. Meanwhile, Naruto's clones tackled the other, overwhelming him with sheer numbers. Sakura stayed close to Tazuna, brandishing a kunai and ready to defend him if necessary. The battle was chaotic but brief. Sasuke landed a decisive kick, knocking one of the shinobi unconscious, while Naruto's clones pinned the other to the ground. "Gotcha!" Naruto yelled triumphantly as the real him delivered the final blow, dispelling his clones in a puff of smoke. As the dust settled, Kakashi reappeared from the shadows, clapping slowly. "Not bad," he said, his tone light but approving. "But you need to work on your awareness, Naruto. You froze up there for a moment." Naruto scratched the back of his head, grinning sheepishly. "Sorry about that." "What happened to you?" Sakura demanded. "We thought." "Substitution jutsu," Kakashi explained, gesturing toward the splintered log on the ground. "I was never in any danger." Sasuke scowled. "You knew this was going to happen." "I had a feeling," Kakashi admitted, his eye narrowing as he crouched to inspect the unconscious attackers. "These aren't ordinary bandits. They're from the hidden mist, and this was no random attack." Tazuna shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Kakashi's gaze. "You've got some explaining to do, Tazuna-san," Kakashi said, his tone turning serious. The bridge builder sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. All right. I'll tell you everything. But not here. Let's keep moving." Kakashi nodded, his eye briefly glancing at his team. "Good work, all of you. But stay alert. This mission just got a lot more complicated." As they continued down the road, Naruto couldn't help but glance back at Kakashi. His sensei had been right. He'd frozen. But next time, he swore he wouldn't hesitate. Not when his team was counting on him. The road ahead was shrouded in mist, the air damp and heavy as Team 7 pressed forward. Naruto grumbled loudly, kicking at a stray rock. "This mist is so annoying. How are we supposed to see anything?" Sakura sighed, brushing a few damp strands of hair out of her face. "It's going to ruin my hair. Why couldn't this mission have been somewhere sunny?" "Enough," Sasuke snapped, his voice low and tense. "We're on a mission. Take this seriously." Naruto glanced at Sakura and smiled, his expression surprisingly gentle. "Don't worry, Sakura-chan. We got this." She blinked, momentarily taken aback by the rare reassurance for Naruto. She nodded, and the group continued, their steps crunching on the trodden path as the mist thickened around them. The silence was broken by Kakashi's sharp command. "Get down!" Sakura, standing closest to Tazuna, acted on instinct. She threw herself at the bridge builder, knocking them both to the ground. Naruto and Sasuke ducked just in time as a massive blade spun through the air above their heads, embedding itself in a tree with a resounding thud. A figure appeared, balanced effortlessly on the flat of the enormous sword. He was shirtless, his face partially obscured by bandages, and his presence exuded an almost tangible menace. The air grew colder, thick with the weight of his killing intent. Sasuke froze, his breath catching in his throat. He hadn't felt a presence this overwhelming since his brother. The man's voice was low and mocking as he addressed Kakashi. "Kakashi Hitaki, the copy ninja of Konoha. And to think I was told this mission would be easy. What a surprise." Kakashi's demeanor shifted instantly. His book was gone, replaced by a sharp intensity that even Naruto had never seen before. He regarded the figure with measured caution. "Zabuza Momochi," Kakashi said evenly. "A rank missing ninja of the hidden mist. Wanted for the attempted assassination of the Mizukage." Kakashi's single visible eye shifted briefly to Tazuna. "If we survive this, you and I have much to discuss, Tazuna-sen." Tazuna's face went pale, but he said nothing. Zabuza's laugh was chilling, echoing through the mist. "Your reputation precedes you, copy ninja. The fabled Sharingan. It'll be an honor to cut you down." Kakashi sighed, reaching for his headband. "I didn't think I'd need this today." As Kakashi lifted his headband to reveal his Sharingan eye, Sasuke's mind reeled. The Sharingan? His thoughts raced, his heart pounding in his chest. How does Sensei have that eye? Zabuza's grin widened, his teeth glinting in the dim light. "Your blood will feed my blade nicely." The fight erupted in a blur of movement. Zabuza leapt from his sword, the massive weapon dislodging itself from the tree as he swung it in a deadly arc. Kakashi met him head-on, their weapons clashing with a reverberating clang. The force of the impact sent shockwaves through the mist, rustling the nearby trees. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke could only watch in awe as their sensei matched the infamous rogue ninja blow for blow. Kakashi's Sharingan glinted in the fading light, tracking Zabuza's every move with uncanny precision. But Zabuza wasn't just a swordsman. With a series of swift hand seals, he summoned a dome of water, trapping Kakashi within a watery prison. The Jonin's movements slowed as he struggled against the liquid barrier. "Stay back," Zabuza barked, his voice filled with malice. "One wrong move, and your sensei dies." Naruto froze, panic setting in. "What do we do? What do we do?" Sasuke's voice snapped him out of it. "Naruto, focus. We have to work together to free Kakashi-sensei." Sakura nodded, clutching her kunai tightly. "Naruto, come on. We can do this." Naruto swallowed his fear, his resolve hardening. "All right, I've got a plan." With Sasuke's help, Naruto transformed into a shuriken. Sasuke hurled it with precise aim, the spinning projectile sailing behind Zabuza and striking the water prison. In the chaos, Naruto dispelled his transformation and landed on Zabuza's back, disrupting his control over the technique. The prison collapsed, and Kakashi was free. Standing atop the water's surface, Kakashi faced Zabuza once more, his Sharingan blazing in the dim light of dusk. Zabuza's expression shifted, his confidence wavering as Kakashi began to mimic his hand seals perfectly. "What?" Zabuza growled, his voice cracked with unease. "How are you?" Kakashi's voice was calm, almost taunting. "The Sharingan doesn't just see, it predicts." Zabuza's hands faltered for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. Kakashi finished the water dragon jutsu first, the massive serpent of water crashing into Zabuza and sending him sprawling. As Zabuza lay unconscious, Kakashi stepped forward cautiously. "It's over." But before he could check Zabuza's condition, a masked figure appeared in the mist, their presence silent and swift. They moved with precision, hurling a barrage of needles that impaled Zabuz's neck. His body slumped lifelessly to the ground. A figure appeared next to him. The masked figure turned to Kakashi, bowing slightly. "Thank you for weakening him. I am a hunter Nin from the mist. I'll take his body from here." Without waiting for a response, the figure retrieved Zabuz's massive sword and disappeared into the mist, carrying the supposed corpse with them. Kakashi watched them go, his Sharingan slowly fading as he lowered his headband. Huntanin. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura rushed to his side, their faces pale but determined. "What was that?" Naruto asked, his voice trembling. "Is it over?" "For now," Kakashi said, his tone cautious. "But don't let your guard down. Something about this doesn't sit right." As the mist began to clear, the group regrouped, their determination renewed. The mission was far from over, and something told Naruto that their challenges had only just begun. The group stood around a somber Tazuna, who had avoided meeting their eyes since the battle with Zabuza. The silence was heavy, broken only by the distant rustle of leaves and the soft lapping of water from the nearby shoreline. Tazuna took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping as he finally looked up at the team. "I am sorry. I lied to you." Naruto frowned, crossing his arms. "Yeah, no kidding, old man. What's the deal?" Tazuna's voice cracked as he spoke, the weight of his guilt evident. I didn't think I had a choice. The land of waves is suffering. Gato has a stranglehold on our country. He controls all the trade and has left us with nothing. My bridge is our only hope, but Gato wants me dead to stop its completion." He wiped at his eyes, his voice trembling. "I knew I couldn't afford a higher-ranked mission. I thought maybe they'd send more seasoned ninja anyway, but when I saw you kids, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to turn back, not when so many people are counting on me." Kakashi, leaning heavily on a nearby tree, fixed Tazuna with a sharp gaze. "Deception is never the answer, Tazuna-san. We're shinobi. We would have helped you regardless of the mission rank. But your lie put everyone here at unnecessary risk." Tazuna lowered his head, shame flooding his features. "I am sorry. I truly am." Naruto glanced at his teammates, then stepped forward, his voice loud but resolute. "We're not going anywhere. We came this far, and we're going to finish the mission. Right, guys?" Sakura hesitated but nodded. "He's right. We've already faced so much. Turning back now would be pointless." "It's not like we were going to quit." Sasuke crossed his arms, his face impassive. "Well, there's your answer, Tazuna-san. We're continuing the mission. Be glad these snot-nosed children have unimpeachable honor." Kakashi sighed, his visible eyes softening. Tazuna looked up at them, his eyes glassy with emotion. "Thank you. Thank you all." "All right, let's go." Kakashi straightened, his stance wavering slightly. Before he could finish, his knees buckled, and he collapsed to the ground. Naruto and Sasuke rushed to catch him, lowering him gently as his breathing grew shallow. "Kakashi-sensei," Sakura cried, kneeling beside him. "What's wrong?" "He's exhausted," Tazuna said, his voice laced with concern. "I'll bet he used too much chakra in that fight." Naruto frowned, his usual bravado giving way to worry. "What do we do?" Tazuna stood, determination replacing his earlier despair. "There's a boat waiting to take us across the river. My house isn't far from there. We can get him somewhere safe." The journey to the boat was slow and arduous, with Team 7 and Tazuna taking turns supporting Kakashi's weight. By the time they reached the river, the sun had begun to dip below the horizon, casting the water in hues of orange and gold. An old fisherman waited by the boat, his face lighting up when he saw Tazuna. "You're late," he grumbled, though his tone was more relieved than annoyed. "Get in." With some effort, they loaded Kakashi onto the small vessel, ensuring he was as comfortable as possible. The boat ride was silent, save for the rhythmic splash of oars cutting through the water. When they finally arrived at Tazuna's house, they were greeted by a young woman with soft features and kind eyes. She rushed to Tazuna, embracing him tightly before noticing Kakashi. "Father, what happened?" she asked, her voice filled with worry. "It's a long story, Tsunami," Tazuna replied, his tone weary. but he needs rest. Can we put him in the guest room? Of course, Tsunami said, already moving to help. She led them inside, guiding them to a modest but cozy room. Together, they eased Kakashi onto the bed, Tsunami fussing over him as she checked his pulse and wiped his forehead with a damp cloth. Naruto watched from the doorway, his heart heavy. He wasn't used to seeing Kakashi so vulnerable. His sensei always seemed untouchable, and now... Will he be okay? Sakura asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Tsunami offered a reassuring smile. He just needs rest. I'll make sure he's taken care of. Naruto clenched his fists, determination hardening his expression. We'll protect him and Tazuna until he's back on his feet. No one's gonna mess with us. Sasuke nodded silently, while Sakura gave a small, uncertain smile. Tazuna placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Thank you, all of you. I'm sorry for putting you in this position, but I'm grateful. Truly. Naruto grinned, his confidence returning. Don't sweat it, old man. We got this. As night fell, Team 7 settled into their temporary refuge, each silently preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. The mission had become far more dangerous than they'd anticipated, but one thing was certain. They weren't backing down. Chapter 5. Climbing Higher. Kakashi leaned on his crutches, his posture relaxed despite the tension in the room. Team 7 and Tazuna sat around him, their attention fixed as he spoke. What happened to me during the battle, Kakashi began, his tone even but firm, was an example of chakra exhaustion. It's what happens when you use more chakra than your body can handle. You don't just run out of energy, you collapse. In worst cases, it can be fatal. Naruto, sitting cross-legged on the floor, raised a hand. So you just used up all your chakra fighting that Zabuza guy? Exactly, Kakashi replied. The Sharingan drains a lot of chakra, and Zabuza is no amateur. I had to push myself harder than I expected. Sasuke frowned, his mind lingering on the image of Kakashi's Sharingan. How's he have that eye? Kakashi continued, his visible eye narrowing slightly. Speaking of Zabuza, I don't think we've seen the last of him. Sakura's eyes widened. But that Hunter Nin killed him, didn't they? Kakashi shook his head. It doesn't add up. For a Hunter Nin, they were surprisingly gentle with Zabuza's body. Normally, a Hunter Nin would destroy the corpse immediately to ensure no secrets could be extracted. I suspect Zabuza is still alive, and that Hunter Nin is working with him. The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. If I'm right, Kakashi said, they'll come back, and we need to be ready. Despite his crutches, Kakashi led the team into the forest behind Tazuna's house, the canopy thick with leaves and the air damp from the nearby river. He stopped in a clearing, his demeanor as calm as ever. Today, he said, we're going to work on your chakra control, specifically how to use it to climb trees. Naruto blinked. Sensei, we already know how to climb trees. Not like this, you don't. Kakashi smirked, planting one of his crutches in the ground before strutting up the trunk of a nearby tree. Even with his crutches, he moved effortlessly, defying gravity as he stood upside down on a branch. The idea is to focus your chakra into your feet, allowing you to stick to vertical surfaces. Naruto's jaw dropped. That's so cool. Sasuke crossed his arms, his competitive spirit igniting. So how do we do it? Kakashi hopped down, landing lightly despite his crutches. It's all about control. Too much chakra, and you'll repel yourself. Too little, and you'll fall. Use a kunai to mark your progress. The training began with varying levels of success. Sakura was the first to catch on, her chakra control precise and efficient. Within minutes, she was standing triumphantly on a high branch, waving down her teammates. Look, she called, her voice brimming with pride. I did it. Naruto scowled, clutching a kunai. Show off. I'll catch up in no time. Sasuke, already halfway up his own tree, smirked. We'll see about that, dope. Naruto growled, redoubling his efforts. He managed to climb a few feet before the bark splintered beneath his feet, sending him tumbling to the ground. Unbeknownst to his teammates, Naruto summoned a few clones to slip away and continue experimenting with wood release. He was close. He could feel it. The clones worked tirelessly in a nearby grove, repeating the hand signs and focusing their chakra. Meanwhile, the real Naruto and Sasuke continued their training, marking their progress with kunai slashes in the trunks. The two boys pushed each other relentlessly, neither willing to let the other outdo him. Hours passed, and the night deepened. By the time Naruto and Sasuke finally mastered the technique, they were both drenched in sweat and leaning on each other for support. "We did it," Naruto panted, his grin exhausted but triumphant. "Ichin," Sasuke muttered, though there was a faint hint of satisfaction in his tone. The two trudged back to Tezuna's house, barely managing to keep each other upright. When they reached the door, Sakura opened it, her expression a mix of exasperation and amusement. "Finally," she said, stepping aside to let them in. "You guys look like you've been through a war." Naruto grinned, giving her a thumbs up. "Yell, that's what it takes to be awesome." Sasuke rolled his eyes but said nothing, too tired to argue. As the three of them settled in for the night, Kakashi watched from the corner, his crutches leaning against the wall. His eyes softened as he observed his team. They were far from perfect, but they were learning. And with the threat of Zabuza looming, they'd need every bit of strength they could muster. The next saw the soft glow of dawn bathe the clearing as Sasuke stood by a quiet stream, his mind restless. Kakashi approached slowly, leaning on his crutches, his expression calm but expectant. "You've been quiet," Kakashi said, his voice steady. Sasuke turned to him, his face a mixture of curiosity and unease. "Sensei, I need to know. The Sharingan, how do you have it?" Kakashi's gaze softened, and for a moment, he looked away, as though the memory weighed too heavily. He sighed, placing a hand over his covered eye. "It's not something I talk about often, but I suppose you have the right to know." Sasuke remained silent, his eyes locked on Kakashi. "I had a teammate once," Kakashi began, his tone distant. "His name was Obito Uchiha. We were young, about your age, and on a mission together. Obito was different from you in some ways. He was late, reckless, always getting into trouble. But he had a big heart, even if it took me a while to see it." Kakashi's voice grew softer. "During one mission, everything went wrong. We were ambushed, and Obito's Sharingan awakened for the first time. He saved my life, but at the cost of his own. A landslide crushed him. Before he died, he asked our teammate Rin, a medic Nin, to take his newly awakened Sharingan and give it to me, so that I could protect her, since he couldn't." Sasuke's eyes widened, the story striking something deep within him. Kakashi lowered his hand from his covered eye. "I'm not an Uchiha, so using the Sharingan takes a toll on me. I can't even turn it off. That's why battles like the one with Zabuza are so taxing. But I carry Obito's Sharingan because it's a part of him that still lives on, and because I owe him my life." For a moment, neither spoke. Sasuke stared at the ground, his mind swirling with thoughts of his own loss, his own grief. "I know what it means to lose someone precious," Kakashi said gently. "And I know how easy it is to let that pain consume you. But revenge isn't the answer, Sasuke." Sasuke stiffened, his jaw tightening. "You don't understand." "I do," Kakashi said, his voice firm but kind. "More than you think." Sasuke looked away, his heart heavy. For the first time, he felt a connection to his aloof sensei, one forged by shared loss. It was humbling, grounding. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, one of Naruto's shadow clones worked tirelessly, attempting to refine his control over the elusive wood release. Sweat dripped from his brow as he focused, his hands forming the snake's seal over and over. "Almost there," he muttered. A soft voice interrupted him. "Sorry to startle you." Naruto jumped, spinning around to see a figure standing in the clearing. A girl, brunette with soft eyes and a gentle smile, stood watching him. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, his tone defensive. The girl chuckled softly. "Just someone passing through. I didn't mean to interrupt." Naruto chuckled nervously, scratching the back of his head. "You didn't scare me or anything. Ninja instincts, you know." "You're a ninja?" The girl smiled, stepping closer. "You're a ninja?" Naruto puffed out his chest. "Yup, I'm here on a mission. We're trying to help you." "Help me?" The girl tilted her head. "Well, not just you," Naruto said with a grin. "The people of this island. We're going to take down Gato and his goons so everyone can live peacefully again. The girl's smile faltered, a shadow passing over her face. You sound like a hero. Naruto's grin softened. I'd like to be. I want to protect people, to make sure no one else has to feel what it's like to be alone. The girl, Haku, felt a pang in his chest. Do you have anyone precious to you? Naruto frowned thoughtfully. Ido. I didn't always. For a long time, I was alone. But then I met people who saw me for who I am, like Irika-sensei and my teammates. Yeah, I've got precious people now. Haku smiled, but his mind churned with conflict. This boy, what are you doing out here? Haku asked. Naruto grinned. Training. I'm mastering a secret technique. A secret technique. Haku's voice was curious. What kind? Naruto hesitated, then relented. It's called Wood Release. It's supposed to be super rare. A Kekiai Genkai. Haku's interest peaked. Combining chakra natures? Yeah, Naruto exclaimed. I think it's earth and water chakra, but it's so hard to figure out. Haku nodded, his expression thoughtful. Try focusing on the balance between them, like two streams flowing into one river. That's it. Naruto's eyes lit up. With Haku's guidance, Naruto formed the seal again, channeling his chakra carefully. A small plant sprouted from the ground, its leaves trembling in the cool breeze. Naruto beamed, his exhaustion forgotten. I did it, he shouted. Thanks, Haku. Haku smiled, though his heart felt heavy. You have a kind soul, Naruto. I hope you achieve your dreams. Naruto hesitated. Haku, what about you? Do you have dreams? Haku's face softened, but his eyes grew distant. I have someone precious to me. My dream is to protect them. Naruto nodded solemnly. That's a good dream. As Naruto turned to leave, Haku's expression hardened. With practiced precision, he hurled a sunbon, striking Naruto cleanly in the back of the neck. The boy vanished in a puff of smoke. A clone, Haku whispered, his heart pounding. Even now, I can't harm him. Elsewhere, the real Naruto staggered, clutching his head as a vivid memory rushed into his mind. He gasped, his heart racing. That girl, Haku, he murmured. Who was that? The morning sun filtered through the windows of Tezuna's house, casting a soft glow on Team 7 as they gathered in the main room. Kakashi, still leaning on his crutches but looking much improved, sat in a chair while Naruto stood before him, a frown tugging at his face. Kakashi-sensei, Naruto began hesitantly, scratching the back of his head. Something weird happened last night. Kakashi raised a brow, his visible eye focused on his student. Go on. Well, I was out training, just normal stuff, Naruto said quickly, leaving out any mention of Wood Release. And I sent one of my shadow clones to work on a technique. While I was out there, this girl showed up. A girl? Sakura asked, her tone skeptical. Out here. Naruto nodded. Yeah, her name was Haku. She was weird. She talked about protecting someone precious to her, and she helped me a little with my training. Kakashi tilted his head slightly. She helped you? Yeah, Naruto admitted, his brows furrowing. But then, she killed my clone. The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of Naruto's words sinking in. Even Sasuke glanced up from where he sat, his usual aloofness replaced by a flicker of interest. And here's the weird part, Naruto continued, his voice uncertain. I wasn't even there, right? It was just my clone. But I remember everything, like it was a really vivid dream. Kakashi sighed, setting his crutches aside as he leaned forward slightly. Naruto, it's time you understood something about the shadow clone Jutsu. Naruto blinked, his curiosity piqued. What do you mean? You know shadow clone Jutsu, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi gestured for him to sit. The shadow clone Jutsu is unique. It doesn't just create physical copies of you. It also divides your chakra equally among your clones. But that's not the most important part. Naruto leaned forward, hanging on every word. When a shadow clone disperses, Kakashi explained, everything it experienced, memories, knowledge, even fatigue, returns to the original. That's why you remember what happened with Haku. It's one of the reasons why this technique is considered forbidden. Naruto stared in awe, his mouth slightly open. Wait, so you're saying all my clones' memories come back to me? Kakashi nodded. Exactly. It's a powerful tool, but also a dangerous one. Imagine creating hundreds of clones, each one exhausting themselves in battle or training. When they disperse, all of that strain comes back to you at once. If you're not careful, it can overwhelm you. Naruto's mind raced, his excitement barely contained. So that means I could use clones to train faster, right? I could make a bunch of them, have them work on different techniques, and I'd learn them all at once. Kakashi raised a hand, his voice calm but firm. In theory, yes. But you need to be careful, Naruto. Overusing the technique can drain your chakra dangerously fast, and you've already seen what happens when you push yourself too hard. This is awesome. I'm going to train so hard, I'll master every jutsu in no time. Naruto nodded, but the grin spreading across his face betrayed his growing enthusiasm. Sakura groaned, crossing her arms. Typical Naruto. You just learned something incredible, and all you can think about is showing off. Sasuke, meanwhile, watched silently, his mind turning over the implications of Kakashi's explanation. The ability to accelerate training through clones was intriguing. Kakashi sighed, though there was a faint hint of amusement in his expression. Just don't overdo it, Naruto. You're no good to anyone if you burn yourself out. Naruto jumped to his feet, pumping his fist in the air. You got it, sensei. I'm going to become the strongest ninja ever, believe it. As Naruto ran outside, no doubt to test his newfound knowledge, Kakashi leaned back in his chair, his gaze thoughtful. Haku, he murmured. Naruto's instincts are sharp. If that person is connected to Zabuza, we'll need to be on our guard. Outside, Naruto stood in the clearing, his hands forming the cross seal. All right, time to test this out, he shouted. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen identical Narutos appeared in a puff of smoke, each one grinning as they awaited instructions. All right, listen up, Naruto said, pointing dramatically. Half of you work on chakra control. The other half, go work on wood release. The clones cheered, scattering to begin their tasks. As the real Naruto watched them, his excitement burned brighter than ever. With this technique, he thought, I'm going to blow everyone away. Just you wait, Sasuke Sakura-chan. Old man Hokage. I'm going to be Hokage for sure. The morning sun was just beginning to rise over Tezuna's house when Sasuke cornered Naruto in the yard. His expression was sharp, determined. Teach me, Sasuke said flatly. Naruto blinked, caught off guard. Teach you what? The Shadow Clone Jutsu, Sasuke replied, crossing his arms. If it's as useful as Kakashi-sensei says, I want to learn it. Naruto scratched the back of his head, glancing at Kakashi, who was leaning against the porch with his ever-present book. Sensei? Is that okay? Kakashi looked up from his book, his single visible eye narrowing thoughtfully. I'm not sure Sasuke could do it. Sasuke bristled, his fists clenching. What's that supposed to mean? Kakashi closed his book and gestured for Sasuke to calm down. I mean, no insult, Sasuke. It's the principle of the jutsu. The Shadow Clone Jutsu divides your chakra in half for every clone you make. Every subsequent clone splits half of a half. It's exponential decay. You'd need significant chakra reserves just to make one useful clone, let alone a dozen. Sasuke froze, his sharp mind quickly understanding the implications. He turned to Naruto, who grinned sheepishly. Sakura, watching from the doorway, frowned in confusion. Wait, but Naruto can make a dozen clones. Kakashi smiled behind his mask. Yes, and the only other person known to create so many was the inventor of the technique himself, Tobirama Senju, the second Hokage. The weight of Kakashi's words settled over the group. Sasuke turned back to Naruto, his envy and determination plain on his face. Teach me. Naruto grinned, his confidence swelling. All right, Sasuke, I'll show you how it's done. But don't get mad when you can't keep up. Naruto led Sasuke and Sakura to a clearing behind Tezuna's house, explaining the hand seals and the basic principles of the jutsu. It's all about focus, Naruto said, demonstrating the cross seal. You have to pour your chakra into the jutsu and split it evenly. Like this. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A puff of smoke erupted, and 3 perfect copies of Naruto appeared, each giving their own dramatic thumbs up. If you can do it, so can I. Sasuke frowned, already forming the seal. He concentrated, channeling his chakra into the technique. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A puff of smoke appeared beside him, revealing a lopsided, malformed clone that immediately collapsed to the ground with a groan. Naruto burst out laughing. What the heck is that, Sasuke? Looks like someone squashed you with a frying pan. Sasuke glared at him, his jaw tightening. Shut up, dope. Sakura, meanwhile, was carefully mimicking the hand seals, her face scrunched in concentration. All right, here goes. Shadow, clone jutsu. Her attempt yielded a weak, ghostly clone that dissipated almost instantly. She sighed in frustration. Why is this so hard? Kakashi, observing from a distance, called out to her. Sakura, don't overdo it. Your chakra reserves might be too low for this technique. Focus on control, not quantity. Sakura frowned but nodded, taking his advice to heart. The hours passed as Sasuke and Sakura practiced tirelessly, their determination unwavering despite the numerous failed attempts. Naruto, watching them struggle, found himself feeling a strange sense of pride. You guys are getting there, he said, his tone surprisingly encouraging. Just keep at it. Eventually, Sasuke managed to produce a single, solid clone. It wasn't perfect, but it stood upright, its expression blank but stable. Sasuke smirked, the smallest hint of satisfaction in his eyes. Finally, Naruto clapped him on the back, grinning. Not bad, Sasuke. It's not a dozen clones, but it's a start. Sasuke ignored the jab, his mind already racing with the possibilities. Even having one clone would double his training potential, giving him a critical edge. Sakura, meanwhile, continued to struggle. Her clones remained weak and ephemeral, dissipating as quickly as they appeared. Kakashi approached her, his voice gentle. Sakura, that's enough for now, he said. The Shadow Clone Jutsu isn't a good fit for everyone. Your chakra control is excellent, but your reserves are likely too low to sustain this technique. Save your strength for the fight ahead. Sakura looked down, frustrated but accepting his words. Yes, sensei. As the group returned to Tezuna's house for the evening, the tension among them had shifted. Sasuke was quietly satisfied with his progress, while Naruto walked with a spring in his step, relishing his role as teacher. Sakura, though disappointed, resolved to focus on her strengths. Kakashi, bringing up the rear, glanced at his team with a faint smile. They were far from perfect, but they were growing. And with the battle against Zabuza looming, that growth might be the difference between survival and failure. Chapter 6. The Battle on the Bridge. The forest was peaceful in the early hours of dawn, the faint rustling of leaves accompanied by the occasional chirping of birds. Naruto lay sprawled on the ground, snoring softly, a small sapling growing beside him. He had done it, would release. The baby tree swayed gently in the breeze, its tiny leaves catching the morning light. Exhaustion had claimed Naruto after his triumph, and he slept soundly, completely unaware of the figure watching him from above. Haku crouched on a high branch, his expression hidden behind the mask of a hunter nin. He watched Naruto for a long moment, the memory of their brief meeting still lingering in his mind. You're a strange one, Naruto Uzumaki, Haku thought, a faint pang of guilt tugging at him. He could end this now, ensuring Zabuza's victory tomorrow. But as he gazed at Naruto's peaceful, oblivious face, he found himself unable to act. Their fate would be decided on the bridge. The bridge loomed ahead, shrouded in an unnaturally thick mist that sent a chill down Sakura's spine. She walked beside Sasuke and Tezuna, her nerves on edge as the oppressive fog closed in around them. Stay close, Sasuke said, his tone sharp. His eyes darted around, his senses straining for any hint of danger. Sakura nodded, clutching her kunai tightly. This mist, it feels wrong. Kakashi, walking a few steps ahead, pulled back his headband to reveal his Sharingan. His voice was calm but serious. Be ready. This isn't natural mist. It's Zabuza's doing. They moved in somber silence, the sound of their footsteps echoing eerily across the bridge. As they reached the center, two figures emerged from the fog. Zabuza Momochi stood tall, his massive sword slung over his shoulder. His black tank top and loose pants contrasted with the pale bandages that obscured his face. Beside him, Haku stood poised in his hunter-nin attire, his masked face betraying no emotion. Well, Zabuza drawled, his voice low and mocking. Kakashi Hitaki, I see you're still alive. Shame you didn't finish me off last time. But then again, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. After all, you got those three brats weighing you down. His gaze swept over the group, pausing when he counted only 2 genin. A cruel smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. Oh, only 2. Don't tell me the other one died in a training accident. How tragic. Sakura bristled, stepping forward. Naruto's not dead. He'll be here soon, and when he gets here, you'll regret underestimating him. We'll see about that. Zabuza laughed, his voice echoing through the mist. Kakashi's expression darkened. Sakura, stay with Tazuna. Protect him at all costs. Sakura nodded, her resolve hardening as she stepped closer to Tazuna. Without warning, Zabuza's massive blade came hurtling toward Kakashi. The Jonin's Sharingan flared, his body reacting instinctively as he dodged the strike by a hair's breadth. You'll have to do better than that, Kakashi said, his voice cold. Zabuza smirked, his hands forming the seals for his hidden mist technique. The fog thickened, swallowing the battlefield in a disorienting haze. Kakashi's Sharingan flicked back and forth, tracking Zabuza's movements with difficulty. Meanwhile, Haku turned to Sasuke, his voice soft but firm. Shall we begin? Bring it. Sasuke smirked, his confidence unshaken. The two launched into a fierce exchange of blows, their speed and precision evenly matched. Haku moved with a fluid grace, his attacks almost dance-like, while Sasuke's strikes were sharp and calculated. You're impressive, Haku said, his tone calm even as they fought. A true prodigy of your village. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. And you're not bad for Zabuza's lackey. Haku's voice softened. But not all ninja are born equal. Some are born with power far beyond the reach of others. Akekiai Jinkai. Haku stepped back, forming a series of rapid hand seals. Let me show you. In an instant, a dozen crystal-clear ice mirrors materialized around Sasuke, forming a dome that trapped him inside. Haku's reflection appeared in each mirror, his voice echoing hauntingly. This is my ice release. Let's see how you fare. Sasuke's heart raced as sunbond needles rained down on him from every direction. He dodged as best he could, his mind racing for a way out. Outside the dome, Kakashi glanced at the scene, his Sharingan briefly flickering toward Sasuke, but Zabuza's relentless assault left him no room to intervene. Naruto sprinted across the bridge, the eerie mist pressing against his skin like a cold shroud. He skidded to a stop as the scene unfolded before him. Kakashi locked in a fierce battle with Zabuza, Sakura standing protectively in front of Tazuna, and Sasuke trapped within a glittering dome of ice mirrors. A chill ran down Naruto's spine as he stared at the mirrors. Something about them felt wrong, foreboding. He clenched his fists, his determination flaring. Hang on, Sasuke. I'm coming. The sound of shattering ice echoed through the bridge as Naruto barreled into the crystalline dome, his orange jacket standing out starkly against the cold, reflective walls. He skidded to a halt, his breath visible in the freezing air. Sasuke, Naruto shouted, his voice ringing with determination. I'm here. Sasuke, kneeling on the icy floor and riddled with sunbond needles, turned his head with a sharp glare. I can see you're here, Naruto, inside the dome, trapped like me. Naruto blinked, his bravado faltering. What's wrong with that? What's wrong? Sasuke snapped, his voice a low growl. You could have stayed outside and supported me with a two-pronged assault. Now we're both trapped, and we'll both die. Naruto frowned, his confidence slipping further. I didn't think of that. Obviously, Sasuke muttered, his tone dripping with frustration. He forced himself upright, wincing as the sun bond embedded in his body shifted. He's too fast. His Kekiai Jinkai, its two elemental natures combined, ice release. Naruto's eyes widened as he looked at the mirrored images of their masked opponent. Ice release. His gaze narrowed, and something clicked in his mind. Vaku, you're a boy. The mirrored reflections of Haku faltered for a moment before the real one spoke, his voice calm but tinged with regret. I am sorry, Naruto. I should have killed you that night in the forest. It would have spared you the pain that is to come. Naruto's fists clenched. You have a bloodline? He stopped himself, swallowing the words like me. His thoughts raced, his frustration mounting. Haku's hand lowered, another Senbon forming from ice as his voice turned cold. It ends here. The battle inside the dome raged on. Naruto and Sasuke fought with everything they had, their attacks relentless. Naruto created dozens of clones, each charging at Haku with unwavering determination. But it was futile. Haku moved between the mirrors with impossible speed, his movements so fast they seemed like light itself. One by one, the clones fell, vanishing in puffs of smoke. Sasuke gritted his teeth, his sharp eyes tracking Haku's every move. But even he couldn't keep up. He's everywhere at once, Sasuke muttered, his voice strained. We can't hit him. Naruto panted heavily, his body covered in shallow cuts from Haku's Senbon. We just need to figure out how to slow him down. But Haku gave them no time to think. The air shimmered with icy light as more Senbon flew toward them in a deadly barrage. Sasuke shoved Naruto aside, his body moving on instinct as he evaded the needles with newfound clarity. His vision felt sharper, the world around him moving slower. What's happening to me? Sasuke thought, his heart pounding. He glanced at a fragment of ice and caught his reflection. His eyes were no longer the same. His Sharingan had awakened, bearing 2 Tomo in each eye. With his heightened perception, Sasuke could predict Haku's movements, dodging the next wave of Senbon with precision. But even with his improved reflexes, it wasn't enough. Haku was too fast, his mirrors too confining. Naruto's back hit the wall of the dome, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Sasuke stood in front of him, his body trembling with exhaustion but refusing to fall. Another barrage of Senbon flew toward Naruto, the sharp needles glinting in the pale light. Time seemed to slow for Sasuke. He saw Naruto's wide, panicked eyes, the Senbon closing in, and something inside him snapped. Without thinking, he moved, placing himself between Naruto and the deadly projectiles. The Senbon struck home, embedding themselves in Sasuke's back. He gasped, his body shuddering as he fell to his knees. Sasuke, Naruto shouted, his voice cracking with panic. He caught Sasuke as he collapsed, lowering him to the icy floor. Why did you do that? Why? Sasuke's breaths were shallow, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know. I just didn't want to watch you die. He coughed, his eyes fluttering shut. You better not. Lose to him, dope. Naruto froze as Sasuke's body went limp, his mind reeling. A rush of emotions surged through him, grief, anger, despair. Somewhere deep within, something stirred. Far away, deep inside Naruto's consciousness, the nine-tailed fox rumbled, its massive form shifting. Its crimson eyes opened slowly, glowing with malevolent intent. Finally, the fox growled, its voice a low, dangerous rumble. You call on my power? Naruto's head snapped up, his eyes blazing red with slit pupils. His breath came in ragged snarls, an aura of raw, oppressive chakra radiating from his body. The air around him grew heavy, vibrating with unrestrained energy. Haku faltered, his eyes widening behind his mask. What is this chakra? Naruto's voice was low, almost feral. You heard Sasuke, and now you'll pay. The dome of mirrors trembled as Naruto's newfound power surged, the ice cracking under the sheer pressure of his chakra. The battle had changed, and for the first time, Haku felt fear. Naruto stood in the center of the shattered ice dome, his body radiating a red, ominous chakra that felt alive. The faint outline of a fox shimmered around him, flickering before it dissipated, leaving only the feral gleam of his crimson eyes. His teeth had sharpened into fangs, and his fingers curled into claw-like extensions. Every breath he took sent a ripple of tension through the air. Haku staggered to his feet, his reflection shattered in the remnants of the ice mirrors. He stared at Naruto, who vanished in a blur, leaving a red afterimage in his wake. Before Haku could react, one of the remaining mirrors exploded with a thunderous crack, sending shards flying. Naruto and Haku tumbled out onto the bridge. Haku scrambled to his feet, barely deflecting a wild slash from Naruto's claws. He managed to dodge another strike, but the sheer speed and ferocity of Naruto's attacks wore him down. The red aura surrounding Naruto pulsed with every movement, his attacks unpredictable and relentless. Haku panted, his mask cracked. "What power is this?" he whispered, his voice trembling with both awe and dread. On the other side of the bridge, Kakashi and Zabuza's battle raged on. The thick mist blanketed the area, Zabuza using it to vanish and strike in rapid, precise intervals. Kakashi countered each attack, his Sharingan tracking the faintest movements, but the hit-and-run tactics kept him on edge. Suddenly, the air shifted. Kakashi clapped his hands together, summoning a pack of dogs that materialized from the mist. The hounds darted towards Zabuza, their sharp teeth sinking into his arms and legs, immobilizing him. Zabuza grunted, struggling against the canine grip, but it was no use. Blood dripped from his wounds, pooling on the bridge below. Kakashi stood a few feet away, a crackling ball of electricity forming in his palm. The air was filled with a deafening screech as the energy grew, illuminating the mist with its glow. Kakashi's voice was steady, tinged with finality. "It's over. Lightning Blade." With a blur of motion, Kakashi dashed forward, his arm extended, the lightning in his hand roaring like a caged beast. The attack was aimed directly at Zabuza's chest, the immobilized swordsman unable to dodge. But then Haku moved. The masked shinobi leapt between Kakashi and Zabuza, ice mirrors manifesting in a desperate attempt to block the attack. It wasn't enough. Kakashi's lightning blade pierced through the mirrors and into Haku's chest, shattering the ice and driving both of them to the ground. For a moment, the world stood still. Kakashi stared in horror at his hand, still lodged in Haku's chest. A dreadful sense of déjà vu washed over him. Memories of another innocent life he'd accidentally taken flashing before his eyes. Haku coughed, blood dripping from his lips as he looked up at Kakashi. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice faint, "for giving me purpose." Kakashi pulled back, his hand trembling as Haku's body slumped to the ground. Zabuza, still restrained by Kakashi's hounds, stared at Haku's lifeless form. His expression was unreadable, his voice low and gruff. "You want to know why he did it?" he said to Team 7, his tone devoid of his usual mockery. "Haku was my tool, my weapon, but to him, I was his everything, his precious person." How could you use him like that?" Sakura's eyes filled with tears. Zabuza chuckled bitterly. "Because that's what this world is. Tools and masters. But Haku was more than that. He gave everything for me, and I let him." Before anyone could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the mist. Gato appeared at the far end of the bridge, flanked by a group of samurai-like thugs. He sneered as he took in the scene. Well, Gato said, his voice dripping with disdain. "What a touching display. Too bad it's all for nothing." Zabuza's gaze hardened, his teeth gritting against the pain. Kakashi released the hounds, stepping back as Zabuza staggered to his feet. His arms hung limp at his sides, useless after the hound's bites. But his resolve burned brighter than ever. "Gato," Zabuza growled, his voice low and menacing. "You're going to pay." With a kunai gripped between his teeth, Zabuza charged forward. The thugs moved to intercept him, but he tore through them like a whirlwind, his sheer willpower driving him. Despite the blood dripping from his countless wounds, Zabuza fought on, cutting down every last one of Gato's men. Finally, Zabuza reached Gato. The terrified man stumbled back, begging for mercy, but Zabuza showed none. With a final, brutal strike, Gato fell, his reign of terror ending on the cold steel of Zabuza's blade. Zabuza collapsed moments later, his strength finally giving out. Kakashi approached, his expression somber. Zabuza glanced at him, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Take care of Haku, Zabuza murmured, his voice fading. He deserved better. And with that, Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the hidden mist, passed away beside the boy who had given him everything. The mist cleared as the sun broke through the clouds. Team 7, along with Tazuna, buried Haku and Zabuza on a hill overlooking the bridge. Naruto stood silently, his fists clenched as he tried to process everything. They weren't just villains, he said quietly. They had dreams, too. Kakashi placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. The ninja world is complicated, Naruto. Not everything is black and white. As they prepared to leave, Tazuna approached them with a smile. Thanks to you, the land of waves has a future. And we'll never forget what you've done for us, what you did for my grandson, Inari. That's why we're naming the bridge after you, Naruto. Naruto blinked, surprised. Huh, me? Tazuna chuckled. That's right. From now on, it'll be called the Great Naruto Bridge. Naruto grinned, his spirit lifting as the team began their journey home. The battles they'd fought and the lives they'd touched would stay with them forever, shaping the ninja they were destined to become. Chapter 7, A Day at the Ninja Library. Naruto walked through the streets of Konoha, a trio of younger kids trailing behind him like ducklings. Konohamaru, Udon, and Moegi listened intently as Naruto regaled them with exaggerated tales of his recent mission to the Land of Waves. And then, Naruto said dramatically, puffing out his chest, I charged straight into this dome of ice mirrors to save Sasuke. The bad guy had a super rare bloodline power, ice release, but it didn't stop me. I fought him off with my secret technique. Konohamaru's eyes sparkled with admiration. Boss, you're amazing. Yeah, Moegi chimed in, clapping her hands together. You're the coolest ninja ever. Udon wiped his perpetually runny nose. So, what we doing today, boss? Naruto stopped, turning to face them with a grin. We're going to the ninja library. A library? Udon asked, tilting his head. Why? Naruto scowled, crossing his arms. It's not just a library. It's the ninja library. They've never let me in before, but now that I've got this headband, I'm finally allowed. He pointed to the forehead protector tied around his head, its metal plate gleaming in the sunlight. The kids gasped in awe, their enthusiasm fully restored. What are we looking for, boss? Konohamaru asked. Naruto leaned in conspiratorially, lowering his voice. We're looking for information about something really important to my secret technique. The trio exchanged excited looks, completely hooked. They followed Naruto with eager anticipation as he led them to the library. The ninja library was an imposing building, its exterior lined with carved stone reliefs of legendary shinobi. Naruto pushed open the heavy doors and stepped inside, his younger entourage close behind. All right, Naruto whispered to the kids. We're looking for anything about wood release and the first Hokage. Got it. Wood release. Moegi whispered back, her eyes wide. Like the stuff trees are made of. Like the stuff Konoha is made of, Udon corrected with a snot-nosed grin. Naruto nodded. Exactly. Now spread out and start looking. The three kids saluted him with exaggerated seriousness before darting off into the library's towering shelves. As Naruto wandered through the aisles, he struggled to make sense of the scrolls and books. Most of the writing was dense and filled with technical terms he couldn't understand. Frustrated, he muttered under his breath, How am I supposed to find anything useful in here? Need some help? A voice asked. Naruto turned to see a young girl about his age, her thick glasses slightly crooked and her messy blonde hair tied back in a haphazard ponytail. She wore a standard ninja headband, but looked slightly out of place in the quiet, studious environment. Naruto admitted, scratching the back of his head. I'm looking for stuff about wood release and the first Hokage. The girl adjusted her glasses, smiling shyly. I'm Shiho. I work here sometimes. Come on, I'll help you. Naruto grinned. Thanks, Shiho. You're awesome. Shiho blushed, turning quickly to hide her face as she led Naruto deeper into the library. After a few minutes of searching, she pulled out a scroll and handed it to him. This has some descriptions of the wood release, Shiho explained. It's mostly historical accounts of the first Hokage using it. There aren't any technique scrolls on it, though. That stuff's restricted, which is a bit silly if you ask me, considering nobody else could even use the techniques. Naruto opened the scroll, scanning the passages with interest. The accounts described the first Hokage as a towering figure of strength and wisdom, capable of using wood release to create forests, restrain tailed beasts, and even build entire buildings. He made most of the infrastructure of the Hidden Leaf Village. Wow, Naruto murmured. This guy was amazing. Shiho smiled. He was. The wood release is considered one of the rarest and most powerful Kekkei Genkai. Naruto grinned at those words and closed the scroll with a determined nod. Thanks, Shiho. This is exactly what I needed. Naruto returned to the library's main area, where Konoha, Udon, and Moegi were waiting with their findings. Boss, Konomaru said, holding up a scroll. We found this. It's by the second Hokage. Naruto took the scroll and glanced at its contents. It was filled with intricate diagrams and explanations of Fuin Jutsu, the art of sealing techniques. The complex patterns and dense writing made his head spin. Yeah, this looks interesting, Naruto said, scratching his head. But I think I'll give it to Sakura. She likes reading this kind of complicated stuff. Good idea, boss, Moegi said, nodding eagerly. As they left the library, Naruto carried the wood release scroll under his arm, his mind buzzing with possibilities. For the first time, he felt like he was getting closer to understanding his rare ability, and maybe, just maybe, to mastering it. The sun hung high over Konoha as Naruto, Sakura, and Rock Lee stood at the base of the Hokage monument. Lee, as enthusiastic as ever, struck a dramatic pose, his green jumpsuit gleaming in the sunlight. Today, Lee declared, his voice booming with passion, we will undertake a training regime to increase our strength and speed beyond anything we've ever achieved before. Our goal, to scale the Hokage monument with one hand. Sakura stared up at the towering cliff face, her jaw dropping in disbelief. This is ridiculous. Naruto groaned, leaning on his knees. Lee, at least let us use chakra control to make it easier. Lee shook his head, his bowl-cut hair bouncing slightly. Yash, you would only be cheating yourselves, Naruto-kun, Sakura-chan. True strength comes from overcoming one's physical limits. I believe in you both. Do you believe in me? Sakura frowned, sweat already trickling down her brow. She had agreed to this extra training to help her catch up to Naruto and Sasuke, but this was beyond what she'd expected. The memory of how helpless she'd felt during the Land of Waves mission resurfaced, gnawing at her resolve. But at this moment, her anger at Lee for convincing her to do this outweighed everything else. Naruto stretched his arms and sighed. Fine, let's do it. But if I fall, I'm blaming you, bushy brows. Lee beamed. That is the spirit, Naruto-kun. The climb was grueling. Using only one hand, Naruto and Sakura followed Lee's lead as they scaled the steep cliff face. Every centimeter felt like a kilometer, their muscles burning and trembling with the effort. This is insane, Sakura yelled, gritting her teeth as her hand slipped slightly. She caught herself just in time, her heart pounding. You can do it, Sakura-chan, Lee called down, his voice full of encouragement. Think of how strong you will become when you conquer this challenge. Naruto groaned. Yeah, Sakura-chan, if I can do it, you can too. His voice wavered as he struggled to pull himself up another few feet. Not that. I'm completely sure I can do it. Sakura gritted her teeth, her anger fueling her next pull. She wouldn't let them outshine her. Not this time. Finally, the three of them reached the top of the monument, collapsing in a heap on the stone surface. Sakura lay flat on her back, staring up at the sky, while Naruto gasped for air beside her. Lee, on the other hand, sat cross-legged, his energy seemingly boundless. That was amazing, Lee exclaimed, giving him a thumbs up. You both did wonderfully. Are you ready to begin the real training now that our warm-up is complete? Warm-up? Sakura and Naruto shouted in unison, their voices filled with disbelief. Hours later, sore and utterly exhausted, The three of them left the training area, their bodies aching but their spirits surprisingly high. Naruto wiped sweat from his brow and grinned. "Hey, that wasn't so bad," he said despite his limp. Sakura shot him a withering glare. "Speak for yourself." As they reached the crossroads where they parted ways, Naruto suddenly remembered something. Oh yeah, he rummaged through his pouch and pulled out a scroll. "Here, Sakura, this is for you." Sakura raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "It's a scroll on sealing techniques," Naruto explained, handing it to her. "You like writing and complicated patterns and stuff, right? I figured you'd be good at it." He grinned sheepishly, his expression both sincere and a little dumbfounded. Sakura rolled her eyes, taking the scroll with a sigh. "I don't know the first thing about Jutsu Naruto." Naruto shrugged. "You're smart. You'll figure it out." With that, he gave her a wave and jogged off. Sakura watched him go, her fingers tightening around the scroll. She glanced down at it, the intricate patterns and complex descriptions already making her head hurt. But as she walked home, she bit her lip, her thoughts swirling. "I did say I want a way to catch up with them," she thought. "Maybe this is it." She looked at the scroll again, a flicker of determination in her eyes. "Alright, sealing technique. Let's see what you've got." The morning sun warmed the training ground as Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura sat in a loose circle, waiting for their perpetually late sensei to arrive. Naruto lay flat on the grass, his arms behind his head, grumbling about Kakashi's tardiness. "Can't believe he's late again," Naruto muttered. "What's his excuse going to be this time? Got lost on the road of life? Please." Sasuke ignored him, staring off into the distance with his usual brooding intensity. Meanwhile, Sakura sat with her scroll spread out in front of her, her brow furrowed in concentration as she read the intricate notes written by the second Hokage himself. The text described various Jutsu techniques in remarkable detail, but what caught Sakura's attention were the disruption seals. These seals were said to cancel enemy jutsu, disrupt chakra flow, and even incapacitate opponents if applied correctly. The thought fascinated her, almost like what a Hyuga does with their gentle fist, she mused. Her eyes lingered on a particular passage. Theoretically, a seal could store chakra over time, allowing a ninja to use it in larger quantities later. This would require precise chakra control and careful preparation. Sakura's heart raced as an idea took shape. What if I could use a seal to store chakra gradually? Then I could release it all at once when I needed it. Maybe even enough to make a shadow clone or perform a powerful jutsu. She chewed her lip, her mind racing. There has to be something about that here. "Sakura," Naruto's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. "What are you reading so intently over there?" "None of your business, Naruto," Sakura snapped, quickly rolling up the scroll. Naruto pouted. "Geez, I was just curious." Before the argument could escalate, Kakashi appeared in his usual casual fashion, strolling toward them with his nose buried in his book. "You're late," Naruto shouted, leaping to his feet. Kakashi looked up lazily, his single visible eye crinkling in amusement. "Good morning to you, too. You'd better have a good reason for keeping us waiting." Naruto crossed his arms. "I do," Kakashi said, tucking his book away. "I wanted to make sure I had all the details right for what I'm about to tell you." Sasuke's gaze sharpened, and Sakura leaned forward slightly, her curiosity piqued. "The Chunin exams," Kakashi began, his tone serious. "They're happening soon, and this time, they're being held here in Konoha." Naruto's eyes lit up. "Chunin exams? Does that mean we're going to get promoted?" "Not so fast," Kakashi said, raising a hand. "The exams are held once every 6 months, and they're designed to test genin from every hidden village. It's not just about promotion. It's about proving your skills on a much larger stage. The competition will be fierce." Sasuke smirked faintly. "Sounds like a good opportunity." "Yeah," Naruto shouted, pumping his fist. "I'll show everyone how awesome I am." Sakura frowned, her excitement tempered by nerves. Are we ready for something like that?" Kakashi's expression softened. "That's for you to decide. I've chosen to recommend you for the exams, but there's a condition." The three genin looked at him expectantly. You can only participate if all three of you agree to do so, Kakashi explained. This isn't a solo endeavor. It's a team decision. Naruto grinned. Of course I'm in. There's no way I'm going to pass up a chance to show off. Sasuke nodded, his confidence unwavering. I'll do it. All eyes turned to Sakura. She hesitated, her thoughts racing. The mission to the Land of Waves had shown her just how far behind she was compared to her teammates. But then she thought of the disruption seals and the potential they held. This could be my chance to prove myself. I'm in, Sakura said finally, her voice steady. Kakashi nodded, his eye crinkling in approval. Good. The exams begin in a week. Use this time to prepare. You'll need it. As Kakashi dismissed them, Naruto and Sasuke began discussing their training plans, but Sakura lingered behind, clutching her scroll tightly. Her determination burned brighter than ever. I'll show them I'm not just a tag-along, she thought. I'll find a way to stand beside them as equals. Chapter 8. The Chunin exams build up. The streets of Konoha buzzed with activity as shinobi from all over the hidden villages began arriving for the Chunin exams. Naruto strolled through the marketplace, flanked by the ever-loyal Konohamaru Corps, Konohamaru, Udon, and Moegi. The younger kids hung on his every word as he regaled them with exaggerated stories of his missions. And then, with one mighty punch, I sent Zabuza flying, Naruto exclaimed, throwing a dramatic air punch. Wow, boss, you're amazing, Konohamaru said, his eyes wide with zealous admiration. Moegi giggled. Yeah, you're going to win the Chunin exams for sure. Naruto grinned, puffing out his chest. Of course, I'm going to crush everyone. As they walked, Konohamaru ran ahead, playing a game of ninja stealth through the crowd. He darted between stalls and around corners, until, wham, he collided with something solid. Konohamaru stumbled back, looking up to see a tall, broad-shouldered ninja with face paint and a strange puppet slung over his back. Kankuro of the Sand Village scowled down at him, his expression darkening. Hey kid, Kankuro growled. Watch where you're going. Konohamaru gulped, stepping back nervously. Sorry. But Kankuro grabbed him by the collar, lifting him effortlessly off the ground. Sorry's not good enough. You want to mess with me, brat? Let him go, Moegi and Udon shouted, running up to defend their friend. Naruto appeared moments later, taking in the scene with a frown. Hey, put him down, you oversized freak. Kankuro turned his glare on Naruto, his grip on Konohamaru tightening. What did you just call me? Naruto jabbed a finger at him. You heard me. Let him go, or you'll regret it. Before Kankuro could respond, a voice cut through the tension. Kankuro, stop messing around, said a tall girl with blonde hair, tied into 4 spiky pigtails. Temari, Kankuro's older sister, approached with an exasperated expression. You're making a scene? I'm just teaching this little punk a lesson, Kankuro retorted. Temari sighed, her fan clinking against her back. Seriously, we don't have time for this. You want to fight, tough guy? Kankuro ignored her, glaring at Naruto. He still held Konohamaru in his grip. Naruto stepped forward, rolling up his sleeves. You bet I do. The standoff escalated, but before either of them could make a move, a small rock flew through the air, striking Kankuro's hand and forcing him to release Konohamaru. Who did that? Kankuro hissed, shaking his hand. Above them, Sasuke sat on a tree branch, his face calm, but his eyes sharp. You're embarrassing yourself. Kankuro growled, his hand moving toward the puppet on his back. Oh, you want to go too? Sasuke, Naruto called out, grinning. Perfect timing. Let's teach this guy a lesson. But before anything else could happen, a cold, menacing voice interrupted them. Kankuro. Everyone froze as a red-haired boy appeared above them in a flourish of sand, standing upside down on the side of a nearby tree. A large gourd was strapped to his back, and his teal eyes glared down at Kankuro with a mixture of annoyance and disdain. Jigara, Kankuro stammered, immediately stepping back. I was just... Shut up, or I'll kill you, Gaara said coldly, his gaze shifting to Naruto, Sasuke, and the others. His killing intent was palpable, making the air heavy and suffocating. You're an embarrassment to our village. Kankuro flinched but didn't argue, shrinking back under his brother's intense glare. Gaara's eyes lingered on Naruto and Sasuke, his presence exuding an aura of danger. So, you're from the Leaf. Let's see if you're worth killing during the exams. Naruto clenched his fists, meeting Gaara's gaze with defiance. Bring it on, sand freak. I'm not afraid of you. Sasuke, however, remained calm, his expression unreadable. This guy, there's something different about him. He's dangerous. Temari cleared her throat, stepping forward with an awkward smile. Naruto blushed for the first time, taking in her beauty as she said, okay, we're done here. Sorry about the trouble. Let's go, guys. Kankuro shot one last glare at Naruto before following Temari. Gaara lingered for a moment, his piercing gaze sweeping over Team 7 before disappearing in a swirl of sand. As the tension faded, Konohamaru looked up at Naruto, his voice trembling. Boss, who was that? Just some jerks who don't know what they're in for. Naruto grinned, though his bravado was slightly forced. Sasuke said nothing, his eyes still fixed on the spot where Gaara had stood. The Chunin exams are going to be interesting. The large, crowded room buzzed with nervous energy as genin from various hidden villages gathered for the first part of the Chunin exams. Team 7 stood together near the edge of the room, Naruto's usual excitement clashing with Sasuke's calm demeanor and Sakura's quiet nervousness. Naruto grinned, scanning the room. Look at all these people. They're all here to see me shine. Sakura rolled her eyes. They're here to compete, Naruto, to fight you, not to watch you. Sasuke, his gaze sharp, added, you should focus. Most of these people will be stronger than you. Yeah, right? I'm gonna wipe the floor with them. Naruto crossed his arms, his grin unfazed. Before they could continue, a voice interrupted. You three are from the Leaf Village, right? The trio turned to see a ninja with silver hair and glasses approaching them. He wore a leaf forehead protector and had an air of casual friendliness. The name's Kabuto Yakushi, he said, offering a polite smile. You all seem new to this, so I thought I'd say hello. Sakura tilted her head. You're a leaf ninja? You don't look like a genin. Kabuto chuckled, scratching the back of his head. Well, this isn't my first Chunin exam. Actually, it's my 7th. I'm what you'd call a veteran. Naruto blinked. 7th? You must really suck if you haven't passed yet. Kabuto laughed it off, though a faint twitch in his smile betrayed his irritation. It's not that simple. These exams are designed to be challenging, but I've learned a lot from my failures. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a stack of cards. In fact, I put together a bit of intel on the competition. Care to see? Naruto perked up immediately. Yeah, show us. Kabuto spread the cards out and held one up, channeling a small amount of chakra into it. The card revealed detailed information about the number of participants, the breakdown of genin from each village, and a few notable teams. This, Kabuto said, is the kind of info you need to succeed. I can tell you about specific competitors, too. Sasuke, always one to analyze his opponents, spoke up. What do you have on Gaara of the Sand? Kabuto smirked, flipping to another card. Gaha, from the Hidden Sand. He's completed several high-ranked missions, even as a genin. His abilities are unique. You'll want to watch out for him. It says he's completed multiple B-rank missions. Wow, even an A-rank mission. And he's never been scratched. Sasuke frowned, filing the information away. Hey, Kabuto, Naruto piped up, his voice unusually serious. Do you have anything on the first Hokage? Hashirama sends you. Kabuto raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by the question. The first Hokage? That's a bit unexpected. He sifted through his cards before pulling one out. I don't have much, just an overview. Most of the first Hokage's secrets are highly classified. He activated the card, and a holographic summary of Hashirama's abilities appeared. Hashirama Senju, Kabuto began, was one of the strongest shinobi in history. His Kekkei Genkai would release, allowed him to create and manipulate forests with ease. He had superhuman strength, immense chakra reserves, and a unique regenerative ability that let him heal without hand signs. He's also famous for his ability to suppress and control tailed beasts. Naruto stared at the card, his mind racing as he absorbed the information. Super strength, healing, and would release. Tail beasts? His fists clenched. I'm nowhere near that level, but if he could do it, maybe I can too. His mind lingered on the idea of controlling his tail beast. Why the interest in the first Hokage? Kabuto asked, his tone curious. Naruto shrugged, masking his true thoughts. No reason, just curious. Before Kabuto could press further, the room fell silent as a new figure entered. A man with a scarred face and a menacing presence strode to the front of the room, his headband bearing the mark of the hidden leaf. Ibiki Marino, Sakura whispered, her voice trembling slightly. He's in charge of Konoha's torture and interrogation unit. Ibiki's piercing gaze swept over the gathered genin, silencing any remaining chatter. Welcome to the first phase of the Chunin exams, he said, his voice low and commanding. From this moment on, your every action will be judged. Let's see if you have what it takes to survive. The room tensed, the weight of his words settling over the competitors like a storm cloud. Naruto swallowed hard, his usual bravado replaced by a rare moment of apprehension. This is it, he thought. Time to show everyone what I've got. The room was heavy with tension as Ibiki Marino stood at the front of the room, his scarred face unreadable. Rows of genin sat at their desks, each one holding a test sheet. The silence was palpable, broken only by the occasional scribble of a pen or the shifting of a chair. Naruto sat in the middle of the room, staring blankly at his test paper. His pencil rested uselessly in his hand as he looked at the questions. They were impossible. Complex projectile motion equations, obscure historical facts, and technical ninja tactics he didn't understand at all. What the heck is this? He thought, beads of sweat forming on his brow. How am I supposed to know any of this? Meanwhile, Hinata sat a few rows behind him, her Byakugan activated subtly, so she wouldn't draw attention. Her pale lavender eyes focused on Naruto, noting the way his pencil hadn't moved once since the exam started. He hasn't written anything, she thought, her heart sinking. Naruto-kun, did you know this test would be this hard? She felt a pang of gratitude that he had graduated after all. You've come so far. I just wish I could help you. In a nearby seat, Sakura frowned as she scanned the questions, her sharp mind quickly piecing together what was happening. This test isn't about the answers, she realized. It's about finding a way to cheat without getting caught. Her eyes darted around the room, noticing the subtle techniques being used by the other genin. The Hyuga were using their Byakugan to copy answers, while Kankuro from the Sand Village had hidden a puppet under his desk to peek at another student's sheet. Temari's fan moved slightly, catching glimpses of answers reflected in a polished surface. Sasuke's Sharingan glinted faintly as he copied the hand movements of a nearby competitor. Sakura glanced at Naruto, who sat frozen, his pencil still hovering uselessly over his paper. He's never going to figure this out on his own. She bit her lip, debating how she could help him. I can't just give him the answers, but maybe no. As the test dragged on, Ibiki's voice boomed through the room. For those of you caught cheating 5 times, you will be dismissed immediately. For those who think this test is impossible, you are free to leave. But remember, if you leave, you fail. Several genin shifted uncomfortably, their resolve faltering. Some began to leave, their heads hanging low as they exited the room. Then came the announcement of the 10th question. Ibiki's scarred face loomed over the room as he explained the final terms. The 10th question is a gamble. If you choose to answer and fail, you will not only fail this exam, but be banned from ever taking the Chunin exams again. The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. The weight of the ultimatum bore down on everyone. If you don't want to take that risk, Ibiki continued, you may leave now. But once you leave, there's no coming back. One by one, genin stood, their faces pale as they opted out of the test. Sakura gripped the edges of her desk, her mind racing. Her gaze flicked to Naruto, who was shaking slightly, his hands balled into fists on his desk. He's panicking, she thought, her heart sinking. If we take the 10th question and fail, we'll lose our only chance. Maybe I should. Her thoughts froze as Naruto suddenly stood up, his chair screeching against the floor. Everyone turned to look at him. I'm not leaving. Naruto shouted, his voice filled with determination. I don't care what the question is or what the risk is. I'd rather stay a genin forever than give up now. Sakura stared at him, her mouth slightly open. Naruto! His words sparked something in the remaining genin, many of whom straightened in their seats, their resolve renewed. Even Sasuke smirked faintly, his usual calm demeanor briefly giving way to admiration. Ibiki's lips curled into a rare smile. Interesting. He paused, letting the tension in the room linger for a moment longer before speaking again. Congratulations. You've all passed. The room fell silent, stunned. The purpose of this test, Ibiki explained, wasn't to measure your knowledge. It was to test your ability to endure pressure and make tough decisions as a ninja. Sometimes, you'll face missions where retreat isn't an option. Those who stayed demonstrated the resolve needed to be a chunin. Naruto's jaw dropped. Wait, that's it. I didn't even answer a single question. Ibiki chuckled. And yet, you didn't quit. That's what matters. As the realization sank in, the tension in the room gave way to a mix of relief and pride. Sakura glanced at Naruto, who was grinning ear to ear, and couldn't help but smile herself. Maybe he's not so hopeless after all. The sound of the door opening drew everyone's attention as a woman with purple hair strode into the room, her confident smile lighting up the space. All right, enough chit-chat, she said, her voice lively. I'm Anko Mitarashi, and I'll be your proctor for the next phase of the exam. Let's see if you've got what it takes to survive. Naruto's grin widened. The Chunin exams are just getting started. Chapter 9, Into the Forest of Death, Part 2 of the Chunin exams. The sun hung low over the dense expanse of the Forest of Death as the gathered genin stood before the towering gates. Anko Mitarashi, the proctor for the second phase of the Chunin exams, stood at the forefront, her presence electric with energy. Welcome to the Forest of Death, she announced with a sly grin, tossing a kunai into the air and catching it effortlessly. This is where things get interesting. Naruto, standing between Sasuke and Sakura, frowned. Forest of Death? That's a little dramatic, don't you think? Before he could say more, Anko's kunai flew through the air, grazing Naruto's cheek and embedding itself in the post behind him. Naruto froze as Anko appeared behind him in an instant, her voice low and teasing. You want to keep that loud mouth of yours shut, kid? It might attract the wrong kind of attention. Naruto gulped, his hand instinctively going to his cheek, where a thin line of blood trickled. Why, yes, sure. Anko smirked, pulling the kunai free and addressing the crowd. This is how it works. Each team will be given one of two scrolls, Heaven or Earth. Your goal is to acquire both scrolls and bring them to the central tower within 5 days. But be warned, this is no walk in the park. She held up a waiver, her grin widening. Sign this, so your families won't sue us if you don't make it out alive. Sakura stiffened, glancing at Sasuke and Naruto. This is serious. We have to be careful. Nearby, an inconspicuous ninja from the hidden grass village watched them intently, his gaze lingering on Sasuke. His face was hidden behind his village's standard-issue bandana, but his presence carried an unnerving air. Anko's sharp eyes flicked toward him briefly, narrowing slightly before she continued. Now, with all that out of the way, the second phase of the Chunin exams begins now. The gates creaked open, revealing the dark, sprawling forest beyond. Team 7 shared a tense glance before darting inside, the ominous shadows of the forest swallowing them whole. The Forest of Death lived up to its name. The air was thick with the sounds of rustling leaves, distant growls, and the occasional scream echoing through the trees. Team 7 moved cautiously, their senses heightened. We need to find a team with the other scroll as soon as possible, Sasuke said, his Sharingan active as he scanned their surroundings. Naruto grinned, forming the cross seal. No problem. My shadow clones will track them down in no time. Before he could summon them, a group of ninja from the Hidden Rain village emerged from the underbrush, their faces masked and weapons drawn. Well, that was fast, Sakura muttered, readying a kunai. Figured you rookies would be easy pickings. A distorted voice came through the respirator. The Rain Ninja didn't waste time. They launched a coordinated attack, their movements swift and practiced. One hurled a barrage of Sunbon at Naruto, who dodged and countered with a wave of shadow clones. "Get him, boys!" Naruto shouted as his clones charged forward, overwhelming the attackers with sheer numerical advantage. Meanwhile, Sasuke engaged another Rain Ninja in close combat. His Sharingan tracked every movement, allowing him to dodge a series of rapid strikes. "Naruto, boost me!" "On it," Naruto replied, forming another set of clones. They lifted Sasuke into the air with a coordinated leap, giving him the perfect angle to deliver a devastating kick to the Rain Ninja's chest. The enemy crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Sakura, meanwhile, evaded an attack from the third Rain Ninja and countered with precision, her kunai slashing through the ninja's defenses. As soon as he stumbled, she slapped a paper tag on his arm. "That's one down." With the Rain Ninja subdued, Sakura quickly tagged the others with her chakra disruption seals, placing them carefully on their bodies. These seals will disrupt their chakra flow. They'll wear off in about 6 hours, so we'd better get moving. Naruto held up the Rain Team scroll, grinning triumphantly. "Check out. It's an Earth scroll. We got both now." "Good," Sasuke said, his voice calm but focused. "Let's get to the tower." Unbeknownst to them, the hidden grass ninja who had been watching them earlier lingered nearby, hidden among the trees. His unsettling presence radiated malice as his gaze followed Team 7. "They're strong," he murmured, his voice low and almost serpentine. "Especially the Uchiha." His lips curled into a sinister smile as he vanished into the shadows, his target clear. The Forest of Death had only just begun to live up to its name. The dense underbrush of the Forest of Death crackled underfoot as Team 7 pressed forward, their nerves taut. The eerie quiet of the forest was broken only by distant sounds, the rustling of leaves, faint growls, and the occasional scream far in the distance. "We're making good time," Sakura said, glancing at the 2 scrolls they'd secured. "If we keep this up, we'll reach the tower early." Naruto grinned. "Told you we'd crush this test. Nothing can stop us, Dadabayo." His confidence was short-lived. The ground beneath them trembled, and a deafening roar echoed through the forest. Trees snapped like twigs as a massive serpent burst through the foliage, its yellow eyes locked on the team. "A giant snake?" Naruto shouted, his grin replaced by wide-eyed panic. "Why is it always snakes?" The snake lunged, its gaping maw aimed directly at them. Sasuke leapt back, his Sharingan spinning to life. "Stay sharp," he barked. The battle was chaos manifest. The snake's massive tail swept through the air, forcing the team to scatter. Sakura hurled kunai at its thick scales, but they bounced off harmlessly. Sasuke darted in, aiming for the beast's head with a fireball jutsu, but the snake countered with a snap of its jaws, forcing him to retreat. "Is that all you've got, Sasuke?" Naruto shouted, forming a wave of shadow clones that swarmed the snake. "What's wrong? Are you scared?" Sasuke froze at the words, his jaw tightening. He hated the implication. Scared? The word burned in his mind. Naruto's clones distracted the snake just long enough for Sasuke to recover. His eyes narrowed as determination flared within him. "Shut up, dope," he muttered, forming hand seals. With renewed focus, Sasuke unleashed a massive fireball aimed directly at the snake's head. The flames engulfed the beast, and with Naruto's clones attacking from all sides, the giant serpent finally collapsed with a guttural roar. Naruto stood beside Sasuke, panting. "Took you long enough." Sasuke smirked faintly. "You're welcome for saving your butt." The victory was short-lived. As they caught their breath, a new presence, dastardly and dangerous, emerged from the shadows. The ninja from the hidden grass village stepped into view, but something about him felt wrong. His movements were too fluid, his aura too suffocating. "Who's that?" Sakura whispered, clutching her kunai. The ninja smiled, his voice low and mocking. "What a promising team. Especially you, Uchiha." Sasuke's Sharingan spun as he stepped forward, his instincts screaming danger. "Who are you?" The ninja's grin widened unnaturally as he shed his disguise, revealing pale skin, golden serpentine eyes, and an unsettlingly long tongue. "I am Orochimaru," he said, his voice sending chills down their spines. "And I've been waiting for you, Sasuke." "What do you want with him?" Naruto growled. Orochimaru's eyes flicked to Naruto, his amusement clear. "You have spirit, boy. Let's see if you can back it up." The fight was over before it began. Orochimaru's movements were impossibly fast, his strikes precise and overwhelming. Naruto's shadow clones were obliterated in an imperceptible instant. Sakura tried to shield her teammates with disruption seals, but Orochimaru effortlessly dodged her attempts. Sasuke charged in, his Sharingan blazing as he aimed for a vital strike. Orochimaru caught his wrist with ease, his strength far beyond anything the genin could match. "You're strong," Orochimaru mused, his voice almost admiring. "But you lack power." He flung Sasuke aside as though he weighed nothing. Naruto roared, summoning the Nine-Tails chakra in a desperate attempt to fight back. The red aura burned around him, but Orochimaru simply laughed. "So much potential," Orochimaru said, his golden eyes gleaming, "but still so weak." With a single strike, Orochimaru's glowing fingers sent Naruto crashing into a tree. Sakura screamed, rushing to his side, but a flick of Orochimaru's wrist sent her sprawling as well. Sasuke, dazed and battered, struggled to stand. Orochimaru loomed over him, his gaze predatory. "You, Sasuke, have the power to become extraordinary," Orochimaru said, his voice almost hypnotic. "Let me give you a gift." Before Sasuke could react, Orochimaru's neck extended unnaturally, his fangs sinking into Sasuke's neck. Sasuke screamed as the curse mark began to spread, black patterns crawling across his skin. "Stop it!" Naruto shouted, forcing himself to his feet. But before he could reach Sasuke, Orochimaru turned, his smile cold. "This is just the beginning," Orochimaru said, his body sinking into the ground as if it were water. "We'll meet again." As Orochimaru vanished, Sasuke collapsed to the ground, writhing in pain as the cursed seal burned into his flesh. His screams echoed through the forest before everything went black. Sakura knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Sasuke, wake up!" Naruto, battered and bruised, clenched his fists. The gap between them and Orochimaru had been staggering. And now, Sasuke bore a mark that would change everything. Chapter 10. The Seal and the Sound. Forest of Death Part 2. The forest was still, its eerie silence broken only by the crackle of a distant breeze. Team 7 had taken refuge in a small clearing, Sasuke lying unconscious against a tree, his face pale and drenched in sweat. Sakura sat beside him, a damp cloth in her hand as she dabbed at his feverish forehead. Naruto paced nearby, his arms crossed and his face set in a frown. Something was wrong. He could feel in his chest, where Orochimaru had struck him. His chakra had been erratic all morning, fluctuating between surges of energy and moments of sluggishness. "Stop pacing," Sakura muttered without looking up. "You're making me nervous." Naruto paused, rubbing the back of his neck. "I can't help it. Something's off." Sakura glanced at him, her eyes narrowing. "What's that?" she asked suddenly, her gaze fixed on the faint markings peeking out from under Naruto's shirt. Naruto flinched, instinctively pulling his shirt back down. "Nothing," he said quickly, turning away. Sakura frowned, setting the cloth down and standing up. "Naruto, let me see." "No way," Naruto replied, zipping his jacket up hurriedly. He couldn't let Sakura see the seal. She didn't know about the Nine-Tails. She couldn't know. Sakura crossed her arms, her patience wearing thin. "Naruto, I already saw it. Just let me look. I saw Orochimaru do something to you, remember? What if I can help?" Naruto hesitated, his mind racing. He didn't want her to know, but if Orochimaru had altered the seal, maybe she could help. Slowly, he unzipped his jacket and pulled up his shirt, revealing the intricate seal etched onto his stomach. Sakura stepped closer, her sharp eyes studying the markings. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the edges of the seal. This is Fuinjutsu," she said softly. A complicated piece of it, too. Naruto tensed under her touch, his heart pounding. What does it mean? He asked, his voice quiet. Sakura traced the patterns carefully, her delicate hand trailing over the outer edges. Her fingers paused as she noticed a faint discoloration, a newer, cruder addition to the seal. Orochimaru did this, she said, her voice filled with certainty. This five-pronged seal here, it's not part of the original. It's disrupting the flow of chakra. Naruto stared at her, his blue eyes wide. You can tell that just by looking at it. Sakura nodded, a faint blush coloring her cheeks as she realized how close she was to him. She stepped back quickly, clearing her throat. But I think I can fix it. Naruto blinked, surprised. You can. I've been studying the scroll from the second Hokage, Sakura explained, her confidence growing. Releasing seals is much easier than creating them. I just need to remove Orochimaru's interference. Naruto hesitated, his gaze meeting hers. For a moment, all his fears and doubts melted away as he saw the determination in her green eyes. Sakura-chan, I trust you. Do it. Sakura smiled, holding out her hand. Her fingers began to glow faintly with chakra as she focused on the seal. Okay, this might feel a little weird, but it shouldn't hurt. She placed her glowing hand over the five-pronged seal and whispered, "Five-pronged release." Naruto felt an immediate shift. The chaotic, volatile chakra that had been swirling within him suddenly calmed, returning to its usual steady rhythm. He took a deep breath, relief washing over him. Sakura-chan, it worked. I feel normal again. Sakura grinned. Good. I guess all that reading paid off. Their brief moment of peace was shattered by the sound of rustling leaves and hurried footsteps. Sakura turned sharply, instinctively reaching for a kunai. Looks like we got company, Naruto muttered, his fists clenching. Three ninja emerged from the shadows, their headbands bearing the symbol of the hidden Sound Village. They moved with predatory grace, their eyes locked on Team 7. Well, the leader sneered, his voice dripping with mockery. Looks like we found some easy pickings, prey licking their wounds. Sakura stepped protectively in front of Sasuke, her kunai at the ready. Naruto, we can't let them take our scrolls. Naruto cracked his knuckles, his confidence returning with his stabilized chakra. Don't worry, Sakura-chan. They messed with the wrong team. The Sound Ninja wasted no time, launching their attack with ruthless precision. Naruto and Sakura braced themselves, knowing this fight would test everything they had. The clearing in the Forest of Death erupted into chaos as Naruto and Sakura faced off against Zaku and Rin, two of the Sound Village genin. The third member of their team had slipped away, hunting for other targets, leaving Zaku and Rin confident that they could handle the two rookies. Naruto cracked his knuckles, his usual grin plastered on his face. You guys think you can take us just because there's two of you? What's even the odds? Forming the cross seal with his fingers, he shouted, Shadow, Clone, Jutsu. In a puff of smoke, dozens of Narutos materialized around the clearing, their confident smirks matching his. They surrounded the Sound Ninja, cutting off all escape routes. Nice move. Sakura glanced at Naruto, a faint grin tugging at her lips. Naruto shot her a quick look of appreciation. Thanks, Sakura-chan. Couldn't have done it without you fixing my chakra. Sakura readied her tools, her seal papers clutched in one hand and a kunai in the other. She'd set several traps earlier, hoping to gain the upper hand. As Zaku and Rin charged forward, Sakura triggered the traps, forcing the Sound Ninja to leap and twist to avoid the hidden wires and explosive tags. Is that all you've got? Zaku taunted, his voice full of bravado. He raised his arms, aiming his implanted air cannons. Let me show you real power. A blast of compressed air tore through Naruto's clones, dispelling half of them instantly. The real Naruto and Sakura worked together seamlessly, evading the onslaught while counterattacking with precision. Naruto's clones provided cover, distracting the Sound Ninja, while Sakura maneuvered into position to throw her tag kunai. You guys are better than I thought, Rin admitted, her tone grudging. She formed a series of hand seals, her chakra flaring. But this ends now. Naruto suddenly froze mid-step, his vision swimming. The forest around him blurred and twisted, and he felt a strange weight pressing on his mind. Jinjutsu, he muttered, struggling to break free. Rin smirked, her fingers still forming the last seal. You Leaf Ninja have such obvious weaknesses. Too bad you won't get to fix this one. Naruto collapsed to the ground, clutching his head as he fought the illusion. Sakura-chan, I can't. Sakura turned, her eyes wide with panic. Naruto, she tried to reach him, but Zaku intercepted her with a powerful blast from his air cannons. The force sent her sprawling to the ground, her weapons scattering. Zaku loomed over her, his expression dark. You should have stayed down, little girl. Now you're gonna die. Sakura gritted her teeth, trying to move, but the blast had left her dazed. She closed her eyes, bracing herself for the end. Suddenly, a dark, oppressive chakra filled the clearing, stopping Zaku in his tracks. Sakura's eyes snapped open, her gaze darting to Sasuke, who was slowly rising to his feet. Sasuke's head hung low, his bangs shadowing his face. Black markings spread across his skin, pulsating with the sinister energy of the curse mark. When he finally looked up, his Sharingan burned with an intensity that sent chills down Sakura's spine. Sasuke, she whispered, her voice trembling. Zaku smirked, clearly unimpressed. So the pretty boy finally wakes up. What are you gonna do, huh? In an instant, Sasuke was behind him. Zaku barely had time to react before Sasuke grabbed his arm, twisting it with brutal precision. Zaku screamed as the sickening crepitus of breaking bones echoed through the clearing. You, Sasuke said, his voice low and cold. You dare to touch my teammates. Rin tried to intervene, hurling a barrage of shuriken at Sasuke, but he dodged them effortlessly, his movements almost inhuman. He turned his cold gaze on her, and for a moment, she froze in fear. We're done here, Rin muttered, grabbing Zaku and retreating into the forest. Their confidence shattered, the sound ninja fled, leaving Team 7 behind. The oppressive chakra faded as Sasuke collapsed to his knees, clutching his neck where the curse mark had burned itself into his skin. Naruto finally broke free of the Jinjutsu, groaning as he sat up. What happened? He asked, rubbing his head. Sakura rushed to Sasuke's side, her hands trembling as she checked his condition. Sasuke, are you okay? Sasuke's breathing was ragged, his body shaking from the aftereffects of the curse mark. I'm fine, he muttered, though his voice was strained. Naruto stood, his gaze shifting between his teammates. He clenched his fists, the memory of Orochimaru's sinister smile flashing in his mind. That power, it's because of him, isn't it? Orochimaru. Sakura nodded, her face pale. We need to get to the tower. We can't stay out here like this. With their resolve renewed, Team 7 gathered their scrolls and helped Sasuke to his feet. The Forest of Death had tested them in ways they hadn't expected, but together they had survived. As they made their way toward the tower, the weight of what had happened lingered heavily in the air. The second phase of the Chunin exams was almost over, but the true challenges had only just begun. Chapter 11, Conversations and Confessions, Prelims Point 1. The light filtering into the tower was dim and muted as Kakashi sat across from Sasuke in a small, quiet room. The young Uchiha sat stiffly, his head lowered, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken tension. Kakashi studied Sasuke silently for a moment, his visible eyes soft but serious. Finally, he spoke. Sasuke, we need to talk about what happened in the forest. Sasuke didn't respond, his gaze fixed on the floor. The black markings from Orochimaru's curse mark had faded, but the memory of the power it had unleashed still lingered in his mind. You've been marked by Orochimaru, Kakashi continued, his tone steady but grave. That's not something to take lightly. Do you know who he is? Sasuke's eyes narrowed, but he remained silent. Orochimaru is one of the legendary Sannin, Kakashi explained. He was once a Leaf shinobi, but he defected years ago after his crimes were discovered. Human experimentation, forbidden jutsu, the pursuit of power at any cost, That's who Orochimaru is. Sasuke clenched his fists, his voice low. What does he want with me? Kakashi leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. Orochimaru is obsessed with power and immortality. He sees you as a tool, your Sharingan, your potential. It's all he cares about. He'll use you until there's nothing left. Sasuke's jaw tightened. I'm not a tool. No, you're not, Kakashi said firmly. But that's why you need to be careful. The curse mark isn't just a symbol. It's a way for him to control you. That power you felt in the forest, it comes at a price. Sasuke met Kakashi's gaze, his expression a mix of anger and confusion. What do I do then? How do I stop it? Kakashi sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. For now, I'm going to seal it. It won't remove the mark completely, but it should suppress its influence. My skills in Jutsu are limited, though. We'll need someone with more expertise to deal with it permanently. Who? Sasuke asked, his voice sharp. Jiraiya, Kakashi replied. Another of the Sannin. He's one of the few people I trust to handle this. Sasuke nodded slowly, his expression unreadable as Kakashi approached. The Jonin placed his hand over the curse mark, his fingers glowing faintly with chakra. This might sting a little, Kakashi said, but it'll help. He formed the necessary seals and whispered, evil sealing method. Sasuke winced as the glowing symbols spread across his skin, forming a barrier over the curse mark. When the light faded, he exhaled shakily, his body relaxing slightly. It's done, Kakashi said, stepping back. But remember, this is only temporary. Don't rely on that power, Sasuke. It's a path you don't want to go down. Sasuke nodded, his voice quiet. I understand. Meanwhile, Naruto and Sakura sat on a balcony overlooking the tower's central courtyard. The tension of the last few days had eased somewhat, but the weight of their experiences still lingered. Naruto stared out at the horizon, his arms resting on the railing. His mind was on the seal Orochimaru had tampered with. He could still feel the difference, even after Sakura had removed the interference. Sakura sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap. She glanced at Naruto, her expression thoughtful. You've been quiet, she said softly. Naruto hesitated, then sighed. It's just everything that happened in the forest. Orochimaru, Sasuke, that seal on my chest, it's a lot. Sakura nodded. I don't know what that seal is, Naruto, or what it means, but I saw how worried you were about it. Naruto looked away, his voice quiet. It's complicated. Sakura placed a hand on his arm, her touch gentle. You don't have to tell me if you're not ready, but I'm here if you ever want to talk. Naruto glanced at her, surprised by her sincerity. Thanks, Sakura-chan. They sat in silence for a moment, the unspoken understanding between them offering a sense of comfort. Despite the challenges ahead, they knew they could rely on each other. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the tower, Naruto felt a flicker of hope. Whatever secrets he carried, he wasn't alone, and that made all the difference. The tension in the room was palpable as the remaining genin stood before the third Hokage. Hiruzen Sarutobi's presence was calm, yet commanding as he addressed the group, his wise gaze sweeping over the young shinobi who had made it this far. Congratulations to all of you for passing the first 2 phases of the Chunin exams, he began. Your courage, skill, and determination have brought you here. However, his tone grew more serious. Far more of you have passed than anticipated. As a result, we must conduct a preliminary round to determine who will proceed to the final stage. Whispers and murmurs rippled through the room. The genin exchanged glances, some nervous, others eager. Even Naruto, usually full of bravado, seemed slightly uneasy. This round will consist of one-on-one battles, the Hokage continued. The matches will be determined randomly. The winner will advance, and a loser will be eliminated. The proctor for this round, Hey Gecko, will step in if necessary to determine a clear winner or stop the fight if it becomes too dangerous. Hate, a pale, sickly-looking man, stepped forward with a slight cough. You fight until one of you gives up or is unable to continue, he said in a raspy voice. Killing your opponent is not permitted, but accidents do happen. Be prepared. The tension in the room thickened. Naruto clenched his fists, his heart pounding with excitement and apprehension. Before the matches began, Sakura stepped forward, her voice firm despite her nerves. "Excuse me, Hokage-sama, Proctor." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Sasuke, who stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He glanced at Sakura, his gaze sharp. "Sakura, mind your own business," Sasuke said, his tone cold. "I don't need you to speak for me." Naruto stepped forward, his voice rising. "Hey, Sakura's just trying to help. You shouldn't fight if it's going to hurt you." Sasuke turned to Naruto, cutting him off. "Stay out of it, Naruto. This is my decision." Naruto glared at Sasuke, but before he could retort, Sasuke's lips curled into a faint smirk. "Besides, you're one of the people I want to fight." Naruto froze, his surprise quickly morphing into a grin. "You'd better be ready when that happens, because I'm going to wipe the floor with you." The tension in the room thickened, but Sakura did not speak another word. Hate stepped forward. "Now, we'll begin the preliminary round," he said, motioning to a large electronic board that flickered to life. "The first matchup will be chosen at random." Everyone turned their eyes to the board, the names scrolling rapidly before stopping. Sasuke Uchiha versus Yoroi Akato. A murmur swept through the room. Yoroi, a tall, masked genin with an aura of confidence, stepped forward with an air of smugness. Sasuke followed, his posture calm and collected despite the weight of the curse mark on his neck. Sakura bit her lip, her worry evident. "Sasuke." Naruto grinned, his voice loud and encouraging. "You got this, Sasuke. Show him what you've got." Sasuke didn't acknowledge him as he stepped into the center of the room. Yoroi stood across from him, his hands twitching with anticipation. Hate raised his hand. "Begin." Yoroi wasted no time, lunging at Sasuke with surprising speed. Sasuke dodged effortlessly, his two-tomo Sharingan activating with a faint red glow. Yoroi smirked, his hands glowing faintly as he launched a barrage of chakra-absorbing attacks. Sasuke grimaced, narrowly avoiding a strike to his chest. He felt a tingle course through his arm as he deflected an overextended cross. "He's stealing my chakra, even with marginal contact." Yoroi's laughter echoed through the room. "You're already slowing down, Uchiha. What's the matter? Feeling weak?" Sasuke's eyes narrowed. He analyzed Yoroi's movements, waiting for an opening. When Yoroi lunged again, Sasuke dodged to the side and countered with a fierce kick to his opponent's ribs. Yoroi staggered back, his smirk replaced by a scowl. "Don't underestimate me," Sasuke muttered, his voice low and steady. The curse mark began to tingle on his neck, its sinister energy clawing at his senses. For a moment, he savored the sense of righteous purpose he felt, an almost religious zeal that made him feel invulnerable. He thought of Naruto's inexplicably red chakra that carried with it such a heavy presence. "I won't lose to you." His eyes downcast, Sasuke felt small next to Naruto's growing strength and the ever-looming, inexorable shadow his brother cast. He gritted his teeth, suppressing the mark's influence with the aid of Kakashi's seal as he pressed the attack. Each strike was precise and relentless, forcing Yoroi onto the defensive. Impossible. Yoroi scowled deeply as he felt himself rapidly losing ground, both figuratively in terms of the battle's momentum and literally in terms of the floor beneath his feet retreating into the rapidly approaching wall. By inadvertent instinct, he locked eyes with his opponent. He cursed his mistake before even noticing that Sasuke's Sharingan now contained 3 methodically spinning tomo. Finally, Sasuke feinted left before landing a devastating blow to Yoroi's chest, following it by exhaling a great fireball jutsu that hit head-on, sending him crashing to the ground, bruised and burned. Yoroi groaned, unable to rise. Hate stepped forward, raising his hand. "Winner, Sasuke Uchiha." The room erupted into a mix of cheers and murmurs. Sasuke stood over his fallen opponent, his breathing heavy but controlled. He turned and walked back to his team, his face unreadable. Sakura exhaled in relief. He did it. Naruto grinned, clapping Sasuke on the shoulder. "Not bad, Sasuke, but you'd better save some of that for when we fight." Sasuke smirked faintly. "We'll see." As the next matchup began to roll on the board, the tension in the room reignited. The preliminary round had only just begun, and the true tests of their strength were yet to come. "You used the curse mark," Kakashi said finally, his voice low but steady. They stood in the medical room and spoke in hushed, harsh whispers. "Only for a moment," Sasuke protested, his jaw tightening. "That's not the point," Kakashi said, stepping closer. "I warned you about that power. It's dangerous, Sasuke. The more you use it, the more it will consume you." Sasuke turned his head, his Sharingan flaring briefly as he met Kakashi's gaze. "I'll use any tool I have at my disposal to fulfill my goal. If it helps me become strong enough to fight him, why shouldn't I?" Kakashi sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because that's exactly what Orochimaru wants. He's luring you in, Sasuke, promising you power, but it's a trap. That mark isn't a gift, it's a curse. You're giving yourself, your power, and your mind to that snake." Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "And what would you have me do? Wait? Hope that training with Naruto and Sakura will somehow make me strong enough to defeat." He stopped himself, his voice breaking slightly. "You wouldn't understand. He took everything from me, sensei." Kakashi's visible eye softened. "You think I don't know what it's like to lose people? To have them taken from me and to want revenge? To feel powerless?" He paused, his voice dropping. "I've been where you are, Sasuke, and I've seen what that path leads to." Sasuke clenched his fists, looking away. "I don't have time to wait." Before Kakashi could respond, the air grew heavy. A sinister presence washed over the training ground, and both shinobi instinctively went on guard. Such conviction, a smooth, menacing voice echoed. Kakashi and Sasuke turned to see Orochimaru standing a short distance away, his golden eyes gleaming with amusement. His posture was relaxed, almost casual, but the malice radiating from him was unmistakable. "Orochimaru," Kakashi said, his voice cold as his hand moved toward his kunai pouch. Orochimaru raised a hand in mock surrender. "Relax, Kakashi. I'm not here to fight. Not yet, anyway." "What do you want?" Kakashi demanded, his stance tense. Orochimaru's gaze shifted to Sasuke, his smile widening. "I wanted to see how my gift was progressing. And I must say, Sasuke, you've exceeded my expectations." Sasuke stared at him, his emotions unreadable. Orochimaru's words lingered in the air, tempting and insidious. "I can give you power, Sasuke," Orochimaru continued, his tone soft but compelling. "The kind of power you'll never achieve here in the Leaf. The kind of power you'll need to fulfill your goal." Kakashi stepped forward, his chakra spiking as he formed the seals for the lightning blade. A ball of crackling electricity roared to life in his hand, illuminating the darkened training ground. "You won't touch him." Orochimaru chuckled, his amusement genuine. "Always so protective, Kakashi. But you should know by now, this is Sasuke's decision." Sasuke's fists tightened, his mind racing. The promise of power was alluring, but he felt Kakashi's gaze on him, filled with a mix of concern and frustration. "You're not taking him," Kakashi said, his voice firm. He lunged forward, the lightning blade aimed directly at Orochimaru. But before the attack could land, Orochimaru vanished, his body dissipating into a swirl of smoke and shadow. His voice lingered, faint and mocking. "We'll meet again, Sasuke." The training ground fell silent once more, the weight of Orochimaru's words hanging in the air. Kakashi extinguished the lightning blade, his hand trembling slightly as he turned to Sasuke. "This is exactly what I was talking about. He's trying to manipulate you." Sasuke didn't respond, his face unreadable as he stared at the spot where Orochimaru had stood. "I'm not giving up on you, Sasuke," Kakashi said quietly. "But you need to trust me. That power isn't worth the price you'll pay." Sasuke stood, his posture rigid. "I'll think about it." With that, he walked away, leaving Kakashi alone in the fading light. The Jonin sighed, his gaze distant as he contemplated the growing storm surrounding his student. "Jiraiya, I need you now more than ever," Kakashi thought, his expression grim. Chapter 12, Prelims Part 2. The room was filled with tension as the remaining genin and their senseis watched the preliminary matches from the balcony above the arena floor. Below, Hate Gecko stood at the center, his calm demeanor masking the excitement that crackled in the air. The next match is set, Hate announced, glancing at the electronic board as the names flickered before stopping. Shino Aburame versus Zaku Abumi. Shino adjusted his sunglasses and walked down to the arena with a measured, deliberate pace. Across from him, Zaku Abumi of the Hidden Sound Village strode forward, his face twisted with frustration. One of his arms hung uselessly at his side, still broken from Sasuke's earlier assault. "You've already lost one match," Shino said, his calm voice echoing slightly in the arena. "Are you sure you want to do this with only one arm?" Zaku scowled, his remaining hand flexing. "I'll crush you, bug boy." Hate raised his hand. "Begin." Zaku wasted no time, thrusting his functional arm forward and releasing a powerful blast of compressed air. Shino moved fluidly, avoiding the attack with ease. The air cannon shattered part of the arena floor, sending debris flying. "Still fast, huh?" Zaku muttered, glaring at Shino. "Let's see how long you can dodge." Another blast followed, then another, but Shino weaved between them with minimal effort. His movements were precise, as if he were analyzing Zaku's every move. "You rely too much on brute force," Shino said, his tone calm. "And like I've told you, you've already lost this fight." "What are you talking about?" Zaku snarled. Shino lifted his hand, revealing a swarm of Kikaichu insects crawling across his palm. "While you were busy trying to hit me, my insects were closing in." Zaku's eyes widened as he noticed the black swarm spreading across the arena floor, climbing the walls, and surrounding him. They moved like a living wave, cutting off any possible escape. "Damn it!" Zaku shouted, aiming his air cannon at the incoming swarm. He fired a desperate blast, scattering some of the insects but failing to stop the tide. The Kikaichu swarmed over Zaku, crawling across his body and latching onto his remaining functional arm. Zaku screamed as they began to drain his chakra. "Yield," Shino said, his voice emotionless, "or this will only get worse." Gritting his teeth, Zaku fell to one knee, unable to fight back against the relentless insects. I give up." Hate raised his hand. "Winner, Shino Aburame." Shino silently recalled his insects, walking back to the balcony without sparing Zaku another glance. The defeated Sound Ninja was carried away, his expression a mix of rage and humiliation. The board lit up once more, displaying the names of the next match. Kankuro versus Misumi Tsurugi. Kankuro smirked as he descended the stairs to the arena, his puppet strapped to his back. Misumi, a genin from the Hidden Leaf, followed, his expression calm but focused. "This should be fun," Kankuro said, his voice laced with arrogance. "Try not to embarrass yourself too much." Misumi adjusted his gloves, his tone cold. "I'll finish this quickly." Hate glanced between them before signaling the start of the match. "Begin." Misumi darted forward with surprising speed, closing the distance between them in an instant. "You rely too much on that puppet," he said, aiming a punch at Kankuro's chest. Kankuro dodged, but Misumi's body twisted unnaturally, his arms elongating like ropes as he wrapped around Kankuro. The Sand Ninja grunted as the coils tightened around him, immobilizing his movements. "I told you I'd end this quickly," Misumi said, his voice smug. "I can crush every bone in your body." Kankuro grinned, despite the pressure. "You really think you've got me?" Misumi's brow furrowed. "What?" In a blur of motion, Kankuro's body fell apart, revealing a wooden frame beneath the cloth. The real Kankuro stood a few feet away, his fingers moving in intricate patterns as he controlled the puppet. "You were fighting Karasu the whole time," Kankuro said, his grin widening. "And now it's my turn." The puppet sprang to life, its limbs spinning and extending with blinding speed. Misumi barely had time to react before Karasu's segmented arms shot forward, wrapping around him in a crushing grip. "Let's see how you like being squeezed," Kankuro said, his voice cold. Misumi struggled, but the puppet's grip was unrelenting. With a flick of his fingers, Kankuro tightened the hold until Misumi cried out in pain. I give up," Misumi shouted, his voice strained. Hate stepped in, raising his hand. "Winner, Kankuro." Kankuro released Misumi, who crumpled to the ground, clutching his sides. With a smug grin, Kankuro hoisted Karasu onto his back and returned to the balcony. The remaining genin watched from above, the tension growing with each match. Naruto leaned against the railing, his fists clenched in anticipation. "These guys are tough," he muttered, glancing at his teammates. "But we've seen tougher." Sakura nodded, her eyes flicking to Sasuke, who stood silently, his face unreadable. The curse mark on his neck was a constant reminder of the challenges ahead. The preliminary matches continued, each fight bringing the participants closer to the final stage and to the truths they would uncover about themselves and their limits. The tension in the arena shifted as the electronic board flickered, displaying the next match. Sakura Haruno versus Ino Yamanaka. The room seemed to freeze for a moment as both girls stared at the board. Sakura's fists clenched tightly, her heart pounding. Across the balcony, Ino smirked, flipping her blonde hair over her shoulder. Well, Ino said, her tone teasing but sharp. "Looks like it's finally time to settle things, billboard brow." Sakura turned to face her, her green eyes blazing with determination. "Don't think I'm the same girl from the academy, Ino. I've changed." Ino's smirk widened. "We'll see." As the two descended the stairs to the arena, the tension in the room grew palpable. Naruto leaned over the railing, cupping his hands around his mouth. "Go get her, Sakura-chan." Sasuke remained silent, his gaze fixed on the arena below. Sakura and Ino stood across from each other in the center of the arena. The years of rivalry between them seemed to manifest as an invisible wall of tension. Hate glanced between them, coughing slightly before raising his hand. "Begin." The fight started with a flurry of kunai and shuriken as the two girls tested each other's reflexes. Their movements were precise, almost mirror-like, as they dodged and countered. The crowd watched in silence, captivated by the balance of skill. Sakura darted in close, aiming a punch at Ino's side. Ino deflected the blow and countered with a kick, forcing Sakura to retreat. They exchanged strikes, neither gaining a clear advantage. "You've improved," Ino admitted, a hint of respect in her voice. "So have you," Sakura replied, her breath steady but strained. The fight dragged on, both girls showing impressive stamina and tactical skill. Ino's confidence began to waver as she realized just how evenly matched they were. "I didn't think you'd last this long," Ino said, forming a series of hand seals. "But let's see how you handle this." She raised her hands, her chakra focusing into a single point. "Mind transfer Jutsu." A faint light enveloped her body as her consciousness shot toward Sakura. The crowd held their breath as the technique connected. Sakura froze, her body stiffening as Ino's jutsu took hold. Ino's voice echoed through Sakura's lips, a triumphant smirk appearing on her face. "Looks like I win, billboard brow." But as Ino prepared to raise Sakura's hand in surrender, a sudden jolt of energy surged through Sakura's body. Her green eyes flared with defiance, and with a scream of sheer willpower, she forced Ino out of her mind. Ino stumbled back, her chakra depleted from the failed jutsu. She stared at Sakura in shock. "Ow!" Sakura steadied herself, her breathing ragged. "I told you, I'm not the same girl from before. My will is stronger than you think." The two girls stood facing each other, their bodies trembling from exhaustion. Neither had the energy left for fancy techniques. It would come down to one final attack. They charged at each other simultaneously, fists raised. Time seemed to slow as they closed the distance, their punches colliding with equal force. The impact sent both of them sprawling to the ground, unmoving. The arena fell silent as everyone waited for one of them to rise, but neither did. Hate stepped forward, checking their conditions before raising his hand. "This match is a draw," he announced. "Neither Sakura Haruno nor Ino Yamanaka will advance to the next round." Naruto slammed his hands on the railing. "What? No way. Sakura-chan should have won." "Calm down, idiot," Sasuke muttered, though his gaze lingered on Sakura's unconscious form. Medics arrived to carry both girls off the field. As they were taken to the infirmary, The tension in the room shifted once more. The matches continued, but the rivalry between Sakura and Ino left an impression on everyone present. In the end, their battle wasn't just about strength or skill. It was about their unwavering determination to prove themselves, both to each other and to themselves. The electronic board flickered once more, and the next matchup appeared. Tintin versus Temari. From the balcony, Tintin stepped forward, her expression calm and determined. She adjusted the straps on her scrolls, her confidence evident as she descended the stairs. On the opposite side, Temari smirked, the large fan strapped to her back glinting under the light. She descended the stairs lazily, her posture casual but her eyes sharp. Naruto leaned over the railing, whispering loudly to Sasuke and Sakura. Tintin's from Bushy Brow's team, right? She must be tough if she's training with him. Sasuke gave a slight nod, his attention on the arena. She's skilled with weapons, but Temari's not going to be easy. Hate stepped to the center of the arena, coughing lightly before raising his hand. Begin. Tintin wasted no time. With a flick of her wrist, she unfurled a scroll, releasing a barrage of kunai and shuriken that shot toward Temari like a hailstorm. The projectiles glinted in the air, moving with deadly precision. Temari smirked, gripping the handle of her fan. With a single, fluid motion, she swung it open, unleashing a gust of wind that scattered the weapons harmlessly to the ground. The force of the wind tore through the arena, ruffling Tintin's hair and clothes. "That's all you've got," Temari taunted, her voice dripping with confidence. "This is going to be boring." Tintin gritted her teeth, summoning another scroll. She leapt into the air, spinning as she released a flurry of larger weapons, sickles, chains, and blades, that rained down on Temari from above. Temari's smirk widened. Pathetic. She swung her fan again, this time revealing the second star painted on its surface. The gust of wind was even more powerful, sending the weapons flying back toward Tintin. She barely managed to twist in midair to avoid being hit by her own attack, landing with a roll. "You're wasting your time," Temari said, closing her fan slightly. "Your little toys can't touch me." Tintin's eyes narrowed. She reached for her final scroll, unrolling it on the ground. "Let's see if you can handle this." With a burst of chakra, Tintin summoned a massive barrage of weapons, each one glowing faintly with her chakra. She launched them toward Temari with a shout, the sheer number of projectiles overwhelming. Temari's expression didn't falter. She swung her fan fully open, revealing the third and final star. "This is the end." The gust of wind that followed was immense, creating a vortex that not only deflected Tintin's weapons, but sent them scattering across the arena. The force of the wind knocked Tintin off her feet, slamming her into the ground. The crowd winced as the dust settled, revealing Temari standing unscathed while Tintin struggled to get up. "You're done," Temari said, closing her fan with a flourish. "You never stood a chance." Tintin collapsed, unable to continue. Hate stepped forward, raising his hand. "Winner, Temari." From the balcony, Rock Lee clenched his fists, his green eyes blazing with anger. How dare she treat Tintin like that? Before anyone could stop him, Lee leapt from the balcony, landing in front of Temari with a determined expression. "You've gone too far. I won't allow you to disrespect my teammate." Temari raised an eyebrow, amused. "Oh, and what are you going to do about it, bushy brows?" Lee dropped into his combat stance, ready to attack. But before he could move, a hand landed on his shoulder. "Lee," Mike Guy said, his voice calm but firm. "This isn't your fight." "But Guy-sensei," Lee protested, his eyes wide with frustration. Guy shook his head, his usual cheerful demeanor replaced by a rare seriousness. "Your time will come, Lee. For now, let it go." Lee hesitated, his fists trembling, but he finally relented, stepping back. Temari smirked, turning to walk back to the balcony without another word. As Tintin was carried off to the infirmary, the tension in the arena remained thick. The matches continued, but the dominance Temari displayed left a lasting impression on everyone watching. The board flickered again, displaying the next match. Shikamaru Nara versus Kin Tsuchi. Shikamaru let out a long sigh, scratching the back of his head. Great. Just what I needed. More work. Ino smacked him lightly on the shoulder. Stop whining and go show them what you've got. Choji, munching on a bag of chips, added, Yeah, good luck, Shikamaru. Shikamaru reluctantly made his way to the arena floor, his hands stuffed into his pockets. Across from him, Kintsuchi from the Hidden Sound Village stood confidently, her sunbon glinting in the light. Kin smirked, her tone mocking. You're the lazy one, right? This should be easy. Shikamaru shrugged, his expression bored. Maybe, or maybe not. Hate raised his hand, coughing lightly before announcing, Begin. Shikamaru immediately formed the seal for his shadow imitation technique, sending his shadow snaking across the arena floor toward Kin. She jumped back, easily avoiding the advancing shadow. Too slow, she taunted, throwing a pair of sunbon at Shikamaru. He ducked, dodging them with minimal effort. Kin continued her attack, throwing more sunbon, some with tiny bells attached. The soft ringing filled the arena, the sound coming from different directions as she manipulated the bells with thin, nearly invisible strings. The dissonance of the bells seemed to throw Shikamaru off, forcing him to glance around, searching for the source of the noise. Kin grinned as she flung another sunbon, this time from behind him. The needle grazed a shoulder, and Shikamaru winced. "Tsh, that's annoying." Kin laughed. "You're predictable. I saw your little shadow trick during the Forest of Death. You can't catch me with it." Shikamaru didn't respond, his face calm as he studied her movements. His shadow edged closer to her, but she dodged again, her movements fluid and precise. The bells continued to chime, the strings creating additional shadows that disrupted Shikamaru's ability to pinpoint her location. "This is such a drag," he muttered, crouching slightly. Kin, emboldened by his apparent frustration, lunged forward with another barrage of sunbon. Shikamaru narrowly avoided the attack, his shadow creeping forward again. This time, it connected with the strings Kin was holding, traveling along them and catching her shadow. Kin froze, her eyes widening in shock. "What?" Shikamaru stood, his hands forming the shadow imitation seal, as he smirked. "You shouldn't have kept hold of those strings. Thanks for the shortcut." Kin's movements mirrored Shikamaru's as the jutsu took effect. She glared at him, her frustration mounting. "So what? We're just stuck like this now." Shikamaru reached for a shuriken, and Kin, forced to mimic his actions, did the same. They both hurled the weapon simultaneously. Kin's shuriken missed entirely, while Shikamaru's grazed her shoulder. "That was pointless," Kin sneered. "Was it?" Shikamaru replied, tilting his head toward the wall behind her. Kin frowned, confused, as Shikamaru crouched slightly. When she instinctively followed suit, her head banged into the wall behind her with a loud thud. The impact knocked her out instantly, and her body slumped to the ground as Shikamaru released the jutsu. The arena was silent for a moment before Hate stepped forward, raising his hand. "Winner, Shikamaru Nara." Shikamaru let out another sigh, scratching the back of his head as he walked back to the balcony. "How troublesome." Naruto leaned over the railing, his jaw dropping. "That was awesome, Shikamaru. How'd you come up with that?" Shikamaru shrugged. "She did most of the work. All I had to do was wait for the right moment." Ino crossed her arms, grinning. "That's my teammate. Way to show everyone how smart you are." Shikamaru waved her off, muttering something about it being too troublesome to celebrate. But as he leaned against the wall, his sharp eyes flicked to the arena, already thinking about the challenges still to come. The atmosphere in the room shifted as the board displayed the next match. Naruto Uzumaki versus Kiba Inuzuka. Naruto's face lit up with excitement. "Finally, my turn." He leapt to his feet, grinning confidently as he made his way down to the arena floor. Kiba smirked, his canine partner Akamaru perched on his shoulder. "This won't take long," Kiba said, cracking his knuckles as he walked down the stairs. "I've been waiting to show everyone what I'm made of." From the balcony, Hinata's soft voice broke through the chatter. "Don't underestimate him, Shino." Shino glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Naruto's unpredictable, but Kiba is stronger. Hinata frowned. Her hands clutched nervously in front of her. Naruto-kun has improved a lot. You'll see. Meanwhile, Sakura gripped the railing tightly, her green eyes fixed on Naruto. "You've got this one, Naruto. Don't mess this up," she muttered under her breath. As the two opponents faced off in the arena, Hate raised his hand. "Begin." Kiba wasted no time, charging forward with Akamaru at his side. His speed was impressive, closing the gap between him and Naruto in an instant. Kiba struck with a feral intensity, his fists and feet moving like a whirlwind. Naruto barely managed to dodge the initial attack and found himself ducking and weaving to avoid Kiba's follow-up strikes. Kiba was relentless, landing a solid hit to Naruto's side and sending him skidding across the arena floor. Kiba smirked, standing tall. "Is this all you've got, Naruto? I thought you'd at least put up a fight." Naruto groaned as he pushed himself to his feet, his grin unfazed. "That's what you think. Let's see how you handle this." Forming the cross seal, Naruto shouted, "Shadow, clone Jutsu." In an instant, a dozen clones sprang to life, surrounding Kiba and Akamaru. The spectators were stunned. Kurenai turned an accusatory gaze to Kakashi. "You taught him shadow clones?" Guy interjected, his voice filled with enthusiasm. No. I saw Naruto training with a shadow clone before Kakashi even met him. I was observing my youthful student Lee's progress when Lee gave Naruto a few pointers. For that reason, I believe Naruto will win." His teeth sparkled, his thumbs-up pose radiant. Kakashi sighed, his tone nonchalant. Naruto taught himself the shadow clone jutsu. He also taught his teammates the technique. At that, Sasuke and Sakura exchanged uncomfortable glances, not used to being under scrutiny. Kakashi continued, "Of course, no ordinary person could make so many. Even I can only create 5 clones before noticing the toll on my chakra." The Genin spectators were silent, their previous doubts about Naruto fading. For the first time, they began to see him in a different light. In the arena, Kiba narrowed his eyes. "Clone jutsu, huh? They're just illusions. Let's see how tough you really are." Akamaru leapt from Kiba's shoulder, transforming into a perfect clone of his master with a puff of smoke. The two Kibas tore through Naruto's clones with vicious efficiency, their speed and coordination overwhelming. But Naruto wasn't done. "You think you've got me figured out? Guess again." As the last of his clones fell, Naruto surged forward, using the opening created by the chaos to get close. Kiba swung at him, but Naruto ducked under the attack, landing a solid punch to Kiba's stomach. "Don't underestimate me," Naruto shouted, leaping back to create distance. Kiba growled, clutching his stomach. "You're tougher than I thought. But this is over now. Fawn over fawn." Kiba and Akamaru spun toward Naruto like twin cyclones, tearing through his new wave of clones with raw power. But Naruto grinned, watching them closely. As they slowed, he launched his counterattack. With his signature cross-seal, Naruto created 12 shadow clones. Without verbal direction, his clones split into 4 groups of 3. Kiba and Akamaru, still in his beast clone form, recovered deftly from their rotation and used their angular momentum to twist into viscous kicks aimed at 2 separate Naruto clones, each dispelled with a resounding pop and plume of smoke. The others used the obfuscation provided by the smoke to conceal their movements. "Now it's my turn." Naruto Uzumaki Barrage. A fresh set of clones surrounded Kiba, the original 10 of the other set surrounding the clone of Kiba that was Akamaru. The two units moved with uncanny symmetry, each one attacking in perfect coordination. Kiba and Akamaru fought back, but the sheer numbers were overwhelming. They fought not like the group of street thugs Naruto had been when he beat Mizuki, but as a coordinated unit, a single front. One clone spun into a low kick that swept Kiba's feet. Another took the opportunity to nail the Inuzuka with a roundhouse kick Lia taught him. Kiba lurched forward, his equilibrium spinning in circles in his head. A third clone connected with a vicious uppercut that sent Kiba flying skyward. Finally, the real Naruto delivered the finishing blow, a powerful axe kick that sent Kiba ricocheting off the arena floor. As Kiba hit the ground, Akamaru returned to his original form, landing beside his partner. He licked his owner repeatedly, as if trying to heal his injuries with salivary enzymes. Both were too exhausted to continue. Hate stepped forward, raising his hand. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki. The arena erupted in murmurs. Naruto stood tall, his grin as wide as ever, and looked up at the balcony. See? I told you I could do it. Hinata smiled softly, her heart swelling with pride. I knew he could. Kiba groaned as he sat up, glaring at Naruto. You got lucky. Naruto extended a hand to help him up. Nah, I just worked harder. Kiba hesitated, then took the hand with a grudging smile. Fine. But next time, I'm taking you down. As Naruto returned to the balcony, the spectators looked at him with newfound respect. The underdog had proven himself, and the preliminaries were far from over. The tension in the room reached a fever pitch as the board displayed the next match. Hinata Hyuga versus Neji Hyuga. From the balcony, Hinata's hands trembled slightly as she stepped forward. Her soft lavender eyes darted toward her opponent, Neji, who stood calm and impassive. She hesitated for a moment, her nerves threatening to overwhelm her, but the sound of Naruto's voice brought her back. You got this, Hinata, Naruto shouted, his voice filled with encouragement. Show him what you're made of. Kiba, still being carried off on a stretcher after his fight, looked over and called out weakly, Hinata, just forfeit. You don't have to do this. Hinata's hands balled into fists as she descended the stairs. She glanced back at Naruto, who gave her a wide, reassuring grin. Summoning her courage, she whispered to herself, I can do this. In the center of the arena, Neji watched her approach with an air of disinterest. His arms were crossed, and his gaze was piercing. Hinata, you should listen to Kiba and forfeit. You can't win. Hinata stood a few feet away from him, her hands clasped in front of her. I won't give up, she said softly, though her voice wavered. Neji raised an eyebrow, his tone cold. You're too kind, too weak to ever be a true shinobi. It's not just your lack of strength, but your nature. You don't have the resolve to fight, let alone win. Hinata flinched at his words, her insecurities threatening to swallow her whole. The crowd above murmured, their eyes darting between the two Hyuga. Naruto clenched the railing, his face set in frustration. Hate stepped forward, raising his hand. Begin. The battle started with both combatants activating their Bikugan, the veins around their eyes bulging as they focused their vision and chakra. They moved into the signature gentle fist stances of the Hyuga clan. Hinata made the first move, dashing forward and striking at Neji with precision. Neji parried effortlessly, countering with a flurry of strikes that forced Hinata to retreat. Their blows were fast and deliberate, each aimed at disrupting the other's chakra network. Hinata darted forward again, seemingly undeterred, her movements swift and precise. Her palms struck out in a rapid flurry, aiming for the chakra points along Neji's arms. He deflected each strike effortlessly, his hands moving faster than most could follow. Her form was greatly improved, her footwork cleaner, her strikes sharper, but Neji was still Neji. They're both using the gentle fist, Kakashi observed from the balcony, a taijutsu style that targets the opponent's chakra points directly. The Byakugan makes it possible. Kurenai watched with concern, but Hinata isn't strong enough to match Neji. His techniques are too advanced. Neji smirked as he blocked another of Hinata's attacks. You're wasting your time. You can't beat me. Fate has already decided the outcome. Hinata hesitated, Neji's words cutting deep. She remembered the countless times she'd been told she was weak, unfit to lead the Hyuga clan. Her hands trembled as doubt crept in. Don't listen to him. Naruto's voice boomed from above. You can do it, Hinata. Don't let him get to you. Hinata's eyes widened, and she looked up at Naruto. His unwavering belief in her ignited something deep within. She straightened her posture, her trembling subsiding. I won't give up, she said, her voice stronger now. Not this time. Neji's smirk faltered slightly as Hinata charged again, her strikes faster, and more determined. She managed to graze his shoulder, forcing him to acknowledge her resolve. "You've improved," Niji admitted, his tone begrudging. "But still not enough." "You leave openings," Niji said, lowering his hand. "Small but fatal." He moved faster now, his strikes precise and devastating. Within moments, he disrupted the chakra flow in Hinata's arms, rendering her unable to perform the gentle fist. She gasped, clutching her arms, but refused to back down. "You're finished," Niji said coldly, advancing on her. "No," Hinata whispered, stepping forward. Her body trembled with exhaustion, but her resolve burned brighter than ever. "I won't stop. I'll prove that I can be strong too." Niji stepped forward, his stance shifting as his chakras surged. "Let me show you the true power of the Hyuga." His voice rang out clear and commanding. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Hinata's eyes widened as Niji closed the distance in an instant. His first 2 strikes landed on her shoulders with pinpoint accuracy. 2 palms, he called, his voice cold and unyielding. 4 palms. His strikes hit her chest and abdomen, forcing her back step by step. 8 palms. Hinata's movements faltered as Niji's blows struck her arms and torso, cutting off her chakra flow. 12 palms. 16 palms. Each strike came faster than the last, the precision of Niji's gentle fist leaving no room for her to counter. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Niji's relentless assault continued. 32 palms. Hinata's body was rocked by the force of Niji's strikes, her chakra pathways nearly severed. 64 palms. Niji's final blow struck her directly in the chest, sending her flying backward. She hit the ground hard, her body limp as she struggled to breathe. Niji's expression hardened as he prepared a final strike, aiming for her heart. The crowd above watched in horror, many shouting for Hate to intervene. Hate appeared between them in an instant, blocking Niji's attack with his arm. "That's enough," he said firmly, his voice carrying authority. Guy, Kakashi, and Kurenai had all also appeared in various points of restraint around the boy. Hinata collapsed to her knees, breathing heavily. Blood trickled from her lips, but she still managed to lift her head and meet Niji's gaze. "I'm not afraid of you," she said softly. As medics carried Hinata away, Naruto clenched his fists, his eyes burning with anger. "Niji," he shouted, "you think you're so tough, picking on Hinata like that? I'll show you. I'm gonna beat you in the next round." Niji glanced at Naruto, his expression unreadable. "You're welcome to try." Naruto's declaration resonated through the room, inspiring those watching. Hinata's bravery had left its mark, and Naruto was determined to honor her courage. From the balcony, Kurenai wiped a tear from her eye. "She's grown so much." Kakashi nodded, his gaze lingering on Naruto. "And so has he." The tension in the room was suffocating as the board displayed the next match. Rock Lee versus Gaara. The contrast between the two fighters couldn't have been more striking. Lee, with his bright green jumpsuit and determined grin, radiated energy as he hopped down to the arena floor. Gaara, in his crimson attire, descended silently, his gourd slung over his back and an aura of calm malice surrounding him. Naruto leaned forward over the balcony. "This is going to be awesome. Go get him, bushy brows." Sasuke remained silent, his eyes narrowing as he analyzed Gaara. "This won't be easy. That guy isn't normal." In the arena, Lee turned to his sensei, Might Guy, who gave him a proud thumbs up. "Remember, Lee, the power of youth burns brightest when you give it your all." "Yes, Guy Sensei," Lee shouted, his enthusiasm blazing. He turned to Gaara, bowing respectfully. "I will do my best to defeat you." Gaara's cold teal eyes barely acknowledged him. "Do as you wish," he said flatly, his tone devoid of emotion. Hate raised his hand. "Begin." Lee darted forward with incredible speed, launching a flurry of taijutsu strikes at Gaara. However, every punch and kick was intercepted by Gaara's autonomous sand shield, which moved to protect him. The crowd watched in awe as Lee's relentless attacks were stopped effortlessly. "That sand moves on its own," Sakura murmured, her eyes wide. "Lee can't get through it," Tintin whispered, gripping the railing tightly. Despite the apparent futility, Lee didn't falter. He increased the speed and intensity of his strikes, but the sand kept pace, forming an impenetrable barrier. "You're wasting your time," Gaara said, his voice calm. "You'll never touch me." Lee stopped, panting slightly as he stepped back. He clenched his fists, determination flaring in his eyes. "Guy-sensei," he called, "is it okay if I take them off?" Guy's expression turned serious, but he nodded. "Go ahead." Lee reached down and unclipped the weights strapped to his legs. He dropped them to the ground with a loud thud, and the resulting crater stunned the audience. When the smoke cleared, Lee stood triumphant and stretched himself out. "Those were just weights?" Naruto shouted, his jaw dropping. In an instant, Lee vanished. The next moment, he reappeared behind Gaara, landing a powerful kick to his side. The sand barrier wasn't fast enough to block the attack. Gaara staggered, his eyes widening in surprise. "He hit me." The crowd erupted into murmurs of disbelief. For the first time in his life, Gaara had been struck. Lee pressed his advantage, moving with such speed that Gaara's sand couldn't keep up. His taijutsu strikes landed one after another, forcing Gaara onto the defensive. However, as Lee's attacks grew more ferocious, Gaara's armor of sand became apparent, protecting his body even when the shield failed. "He's got another layer of defense," Kakashi observed from the balcony. "This won't be easy for Lee." Realizing his normal attacks wouldn't work, Lee leapt back and reached for the bandages on his arms. Wrapping them tightly around Gaara mid-dash, he launched into the air, spinning rapidly as he executed the front lotus. Gaara crashed to the ground with tremendous force, but as the dust settled, it was revealed that Lee had only struck a sand clone. The real Gaara appeared behind him, his expression calm once again. Lee landed, his body shaking slightly from the strain of the front lotus. "He's stronger than I thought," Lee muttered, sweat dripping from his brow. Guy shouted down, "Lee, you have my permission. Open the gates." Lee's eyes widened before his expression hardened with resolve. "Yes, Guy-sensei." The crowd watched in stunned silence as Lee's chakra spiked dramatically. His body glowed with a green aura as he opened the first 5 of the 8 inner gates. The sheer force of his chakra cracked the ground beneath him. "What is this?" Gaara murmured, for the first time showing a hint of unease. Lee vanished again, his speed now incomprehensible. He struck Gaara with a barrage of devastating blows, his movements a blur. Gaara's sand could barely react, and the armor of sand began to crack under the pressure. "Take this," Lee shouted, launching Gaara into the air with a powerful kick. He followed up with the reverse lotus, a spinning, high-speed assault that sent Gaara crashing to the ground with earth-shattering force. The audience erupted in cheers, but as the dust cleared, it became apparent that Gaara wasn't finished. His sand gourd had cushioned his fall, softening the impact. Lee collapsed to one knee, panting heavily. The strain of opening the gates had taken its toll, his body trembling with exhaustion. "You're finished," Gaara said coldly, raising his hand. The sand around him surged forward, wrapping around Lee's left arm and leg. "No," Guy shouted, leaping from the balcony as Gaara activated his sand-binding coffin. Before the sand could crush Lee completely, Guy appeared between them, deflecting the attack with a burst of chakra. He stood protectively over Lee, his expression grim. The medics rushed in, checking Lee's injuries. One shook their head, their tones somber. "His arm and leg are crushed, and the strain of the gates has caused severe internal damage. He may never fight again." Guy's fist clenched as he knelt beside his student. "Lee, I'm so sorry." Hate raised his hand, his voice heavy. "Winner, Gaara." The room was silent as Gaara returned to the balcony, his expression as cold and unreadable as ever. Naruto stared at him, anger simmering in his eyes. "I won't let him get away with this." Sakura gripped Naruto's arm with both hands, her voice soft. "Naruto." Guy carried Lee out of the arena, his face filled with regret. Despite the loss, Lee's bravery left an indelible mark on everyone watching. His determination, his strength, and his unyielding will to fight inspired them all. But the price of his courage was devastating. The electronic board flickered one final time, revealing the last matchup of the preliminaries. Choji Akimichi versus Dosu Kinyuta. Choji stood frozen, a half-eaten bag of chips in his hands. His face paled as he stared at the board, then turned toward Asuma. "Sensei, do I have to?" Asuma crouched next to him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Choji, you're stronger than you think. Just give it your best shot." Choji's lips quivered. "But that guy's creepy. Look at him. I'll pass." Asuma sighed, then leaned in with a knowing grin. "How about this? If you win, I'll take you to Yakiniku-Q for an all-you-can-eat feast." Choji's eyes widened, his fear replaced by the sparkle of motivation. "Really? You promise?" "Promise," Asuma said with a chuckle. With newfound determination, Choji descended to the arena floor, though he still looked a little hesitant. Across from him, Dosu Kinyuta, with a bandaged face and ominous demeanor, stood silently, adjusting the gauntlet on his arm. "You're wasting my time," Dosu said, his voice low and sharp. "Let's get this over with." Hate raised his hand. "Begin." Choji wasted no time, forming the hand seals for his signature technique, Expansion Jutsu. His body expanded rapidly, transforming him into a massive sphere. With a shout, he launched himself forward, spinning at high speed. Human bullet tank. The ground trembled as Choji barreled toward Dosu, the sheer size and momentum of the attack forcing the sound ninja to dodge. Dosu moved quickly, his bandaged face impassive as he analyzed Choji's movements. "So that's your strategy," Dosu muttered, sidestepping another charge. He raised his gauntlet and aimed it toward Choji. "Let's see how you handle this." As Choji turned for another pass, Dosu activated his sound-based attack. A sharp, dissonant wave of noise erupted from the gauntlet, aimed directly at Choji. The sound reverberated through the arena, causing many of the spectators to wince. But Choji had anticipated this. While spinning, he used his hands to plug his ears, muting the effect of the sound waves. He continued his charge, his massive form hurtling toward Dosu once more. Naruto cheered from the balcony. "Yeah, Choji, you've got this." Sakura tilted her head. "It's a clever strategy, but..." Kakashi's single eye narrowed. "This opponent won't be beaten so easily." Dosu smirked as Choji came barreling toward him again. "You think plugging your ears is enough? Foolish." As Choji closed in, Dosu aimed his gauntlet at the ground, releasing another wave of sound. This time, the vibrations traveled through the ground, resonating with the water in Choji's body. The attack disrupted his balance, causing him to falter mid-spin. Choji yelped as his momentum carried him into the wall, the impact sending tremors through the arena. He groaned, shrinking back to his normal size as he struggled to stand. What was that?" Choji muttered, clutching his head. Dosu approached slowly, his tone calm and condescending. "My sound doesn't just travel through the air. It resonates with the fluids in your body, targeting your inner ear and disrupting your balance. You never stood a chance." Choji tried to summon his strength, but the effects of the sound waves left him disoriented. Before he could recover, Dosu struck with a precise, sound-amplified punch, sending Choji sprawling to the ground. Hate stepped forward, his tone decisive. "Winner, Dosu Kinyuta." From the balcony, Asuma sighed, his arms crossed. "He tried. That's what matters." Naruto pounded the railing. "Come on, Choji almost had him." Shikamaru shook his head, a small smirk on his lips. "He'll be fine. He got promised food, so he'll get over it." As medics carried Choji out of the arena, Dosu returned to the balcony without a word. The preliminaries were over, but the tension in the room lingered. Each participant reflected on what they had witnessed, knowing the true challenges were yet to come. The third Hokage stepped forward, his voice carrying over the assembled genin and their senseis. "You have all demonstrated exceptional skill and determination. For those who advanced, prepare yourselves for the final stage of the Chunin exams. The road ahead will not be easy." As the room began to clear, Naruto clenched his fists, his eyes blazing with determination. "Next time, I'm going to show everyone what I'm really made of." Databayo. Chapter 13, A New Teacher. Naruto trudged toward the training ground Kakashi had told him about, still fuming. Specialist? Yeah, right. He just didn't want to deal with me, he thought, kicking a rock as he ambled sullenly. He'd been looking forward to learning some flashy new jutsu, not more boring fundamentals. He grumbled under his breath, already preparing himself to deal with Ebisu again. When he arrived, however, Naruto froze mid-step. Instead of the bespectacled Ebisu, a tall man with dark hair, dark eyes, and a calm demeanor stood in the middle of the training field. He wore a standard Jonin jacket, but his presence felt different. The metal framing the sides of his head gave him a distinct look, and his sharp gaze met Naruto's with a smile. You must be Naruto Uzumaki, the man said, his tone steady but friendly. Kakashi-senpai has told me much about you. My name is Yamato. Naruto tilted his head, his initial frustration fading as curiosity took over. Do agriti gachi guaving. You know Kakashi-sensei? Yamato nodded, folding his arms. He was my captain back when we were in the Umbu Black Ops together. Naruto's eyes widened. What? Kakashi-sensei was in the Umbu? That's so cool. He grinned broadly, his earlier irritation forgotten. So, what are you going to teach me? Some awesome Umbu techniques? Yamato chuckled softly, shaking his head. Not exactly. I'm here to help you refine your chakra control. Naruto groaned loudly, his excitement immediately deflating. Ugh, why does everyone keep harping on my chakra control? I've already done tree, climbing, and stuff. I'm ready for the good stuff. Yamato's smile didn't waver. Good fundamentals are the foundation of all great ninja techniques. Naruto, if you want to learn more advanced jutsu, you need to master the basics first. Trust me on this. Naruto crossed his arms, pouting. Fine, let's get this over with. Yamato led Naruto to a nearby canal, the sound of flowing water filling the air. Today, we're going to work on water walking. You've already practiced tree climbing, which focused on maintaining a steady flow of chakra. Water walking is similar, but requires you to adjust your chakra dynamically since water is constantly moving. Yamato stepped onto the water with practiced ease, his feet barely causing a ripple. Like this. Naruto watched, his arms still crossed. Looks easy enough. Give it a try, Yamato encouraged, stepping back to give Naruto space. Naruto took a deep breath and stepped onto the water. For a moment, he managed to stay afloat, but then his chakra wavered, and he sank knee-deep into the canal with a loud splash. Gah, this is harder than it looks, Naruto shouted, flailing as he pulled himself back to the surface. Yamato chuckled. That's why we practice. For hours, Naruto tried again and again, his frustration growing with each failed attempt. But as the afternoon wore on, his determination began to shine through. Slowly but surely, he started to adjust his chakra flow, finding the balance he needed to stay on top of the water. By the time the sun began to dip below the horizon, Naruto stood on the water's surface with a triumphant grin. I did it. I'm walking on water. He threw his arms in the air, laughing. Yamato clapped his hands lightly. Well done, Naruto. You made excellent progress. Naruto turned to him, his grin still wide. Thanks, Yamato-sensei. Maybe this fundamental stuff isn't so bad after all. Their celebration was cut short